What is up, everybody, and welcome to ESL R1 round number 3, where the very best drivers are all going to be going head-to-head in Rennsport to show us and prove if they have what it takes to go the full distance. I did mention it's round number 3. We're now in the online era of ESL R1, and for the very first time, I'm so incredibly excited to see how this is going to pan out. But it's also my very first time here as well. For the folks that don't know me, my name is Jasmine, but you can go ahead and call me Veracity. But I'm not going to be the only face on your screens today. I also have the notorious expert Luke Crane joining me as well. Luke, I see you're like a deer in headlights. You're like, expert? Really? How's it going?
Yeah, don't put that question to Twitter, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited for this. We're online. Obviously, we had Poland for the first 2 rounds, but now as we head online, I'm a little bit apprehensive. I think the same as the community, but I'm just overly excited for this. It should be amazing.
So obviously in today's broadcast, we have the 2 semi-finals as well as the finals being played out. So Luke, can you kind of go ahead and explain to us how this whole online era of ESL R1 is going to pan out?
Well, actually, if you watch the first 2 rounds in Poland, it's pretty much exactly the same. We've got 48 drivers, 4 drivers per team, so there's 12 teams, and then we have 4 quarterfinals of 12 drivers. Only 1 driver per team can appear in a quarterfinal, so you can't have the same team drivers in a quarterfinal with each other. The top 6 from each quarterfinal make it through to our semi-finals, which are today, which are 2 semi-finals of 12, and the top 6 from each of those make it through to our final. Every single race will be 15 minutes times, a little bit shorter than it was before. Should make for some thrilling action.
I'm like that gif of the woman that's got all those equations and all the numbers kind of floating around her head, right? Because you just thrown a whole lot of numbers at us. So I think the best way of probably tackling this is for the folks at home. Let's give them a bit of a TLDR as to how the entire season of ESL R1 is going to end up panning out.
This is everything you need to know before the ESL R1 2023 spring season kicks off. 12 teams consisting of 4 drivers, each led by a manager, will be competing for a prize pool of €225,000. And of course, for the title as the first ever winner of ESL R1. The season is split up into 2 stages, the regular season and the major. The regular season consists of 8 rounds. Each round consists of 4 quarterfinals, 2 semi-finals, and a final. In every round, each team nominates 1 driver for each quarterfinal. Top 6 drivers from each quarterfinal will qualify for the semi-finals. And again, top 6 drivers from each semi-final will qualify for the final. In each round, all drivers score points individually for the driver championship as well as for their team in the team championship. These points are based on the driver's placement in each round. In the regular season, they can score between 0 to 60 points. The best 24 drivers from the regular season will qualify for the Major LAN event, where they will compete for the title in the final rounds of the ESL R1 spring season and for the prize pool of €225,000.
€225,000 up for grabs right now, Luke. 45,000 for the Drivers' Championship alone, and then an additional 45,000 for the Team Championships. I need you to kind of explain to me, break it down a little bit. Is this going to be an extra layer of pressure for all of our drivers, given some of their experiences?
100%. Obviously, if your team do well, you're going to win 45 grand if you're the top team. And you're also looking out for yourself, right? So you need to try and do well and potentially be that #1 driver and earn 45 grand for yourself. Lots of money on the line. €225,000 for season #1. Like, it is, there's so much on the line for this. But yeah, chance for drivers to make money. I love it.
And obviously, you were speaking a little bit earlier on about the fact that you are no longer in Poland. It is now the online era. Talk to me a little bit about the key differences between the LAN environment and the online era.
Yeah, in the LAN environment, there's nowhere to hide. We actually saw a little bit of an altercation between Graham Carroll and Raina Talver when they had a bit of an issue on track with each other. But at home, you can kind of get away with being a little bit more aggressive because someone can't just get in your face and tell you, do you know what, that was wrong, not happy with you. You might get a couple of really angry Discord messages, I guess. So you're a little bit more comfortable, I'd say. You're also on your own rig, so you're really going to feel a little bit more comfortable just going through corners, braking zones, accelerating, etc., etc. You're not having to get used to a new rig. What we had in Poland, everyone had exactly the same rig. So it's a little bit more comfortable for the drivers. So I'm expecting to see the times be a lot closer with each other because of that.
Now, in regards to the actual physical setups, how much of a difference do you think it's going to end up having? Obviously, over in Katowice, they were on the VRS racing wheels. Behind that is 20 Newton meters of force feedback powering them versus some of the entry-level wheels we have with the 5 Newton meters of force feedback. Do you feel like for a lot of these drivers, it would have been an element of, oh my goodness, I'm not used to having this much force feedback from the VRS wheels? Is that why you think they're going to be a little bit more comfortable in their home setups, or is it going to be removing the pressure of having an audience around them?
Well, you don't need to use all of the Newton meters on offer. So the 20 Newton meters is the max that you can use. And I don't know anybody that's running with 20 Newton meters. They'll have arms like Popeye by the end of one race. Getting used to the rigs is difficult for them in Poland because they had 3-hour sessions as a team where they, slots where once they were done, they were done. Whereas at home, they've had thousands of hours with their sim rigs. So they know every nuance about, their steering wheel input, the pedals, their seat. They can have their favorite cushion in their seat as well. Once they finish a race, they can go get themselves a cup of tea. Maybe they've got their favorite biscuits as well. It does come down to that. It's just creature comforts. It's their home comforts. So yeah, I feel like they're going to be in a much more comfortable position.
And how about the point system? How are the previous results of some of these drivers going to factor into this?
Well, you just need to get as far as possible, right? If you P1 after the end of the day in the final, you get the most points. And if you go out in the semi-finals, then you're going to earn less points. So really, it's just about getting as far as you possibly can.
Well, obviously, we also have the drop score rule, which has been added as well, meaning that, one result will not be counted. From rounds 1 to 6, we're going to be taking, basically, quote unquote, the very best of results. The lowest result will not be counted for some of our drivers, all of our drivers, in fact, between rounds 1 to 6. So I think that in itself is going to be another kind of layer of comfort for a lot of our drivers, most definitely. But before we kind of dive into the recap, and what have you, I kind of want to take a little bit of a look at our standings and how things are faring up so far.
Yeah, as you can see, Joshua Rogers, the driver that won round number 2 is on 107 points, has been super consistent. Marcel Shinshik coming into this weekend was the only driver to have 6 podiums out of 6. Moritz Lohner in 3rd position for Maus. There's Max Benneker, who's just in behind. Yuri Toman, who's made every single race, as well as Kevin Ellis Jr. So the top 6 drivers there have made it to every final. They're the only drivers to do so far. Then you've got the likes of Enzo Benito, Isaac Price, Johan Haaf, Baldwin, Siggy, and Rietveld, who have been good, but not quite as strong as the top 6. But yeah, it was all about Josh Rogers and Max Benneker, in all fairness. They are the winners from round 1 and rounds 2. Could any of them go 2 for 3?
Well, I'm certainly intrigued to have a little bit of a catch-up with what went down with our first 2 kind of quarterfinals, over on Friday. So let's go ahead and have a little bit of a recap as to what went down.
Here are the highlights for quarterfinal 1 and 2 for round 3 of the ESL R1 here at the Nürburgring. Nils Naujoks on pole position for the first quarterfinal with Joni Tormula just in behind. There's also an RHG Audi there, but it's not about the Audi at all as we head down towards turn number 1. It's a 3-way fight between the BMWs with Jeff Gyasi of Furia trying to get up into the lead, but Joni Tormula deals with all of that pressure beautifully well and holds on to that first position. But it's not done for second spot because Furia versus BS competition, Jeff Gyasi versus Nils Naujoks, furiously down in towards turn number 4. Almost a bit of contact as we run then on the exit. You see the Furia car just get across the bonnet of Nils Naujoks and hold on to that P2. Oh, they used to be teammates, but now they're arch enemies. It's Tommy Ostgaard versus Dane Warren as they exit turn 4, down towards turn number 5. They're touching as they get towards the braking zone. There's a little bit of argy-bargy coming down in towards turn number 6. And as you can see, like I said, no love lost because Dane Warren sends sends Tommy Osgaard a little bit wide. Bono House in the Mercedes, just in behind, trying to pick up any potential crumbs left behind. As we head then down towards the hairpin, you can see that Tommy Osgaard goes very deep under braking, has to filter in. But that was for 7th position. Now this is for the final qualifying spot. You can see Dane Warren up towards that final chicane on lap number 5, gets it all wrong, gets a little bit of braking on the grass, cannot get the move done on Enzo Benito. Benito in the BMW drives away, but now look at this. Warren left open. Tommy Osgaard says, thank you very much, I will get involved here. Around the final corner he will go. And as they now drag race down towards turn number 1, you think it might be over. It absolutely is not. We head on to lap number 6. They're still side by side. Bono House praying that there's some contact here between the two of them and potentially could pick up some positions and maybe even that top 6. But as they come then through turn number 1, Osgaard does have his nose ahead. Dane Warren still wanting to fight. This is brilliant in the rear-view mirror for Enzo Benito. He's thinking, you guys crack on and fight. Let me drive away and get this P6. And you think, is it going to be done through turn number 4? Well, Osgaard's going to send it, and by the time they get on the exit, he finally gets across the bonnet and takes P7. One driver who did not see any of that in his rearview mirror is Joni Tuominen. Picks up the victory for quarter-final number 1, and it was very comprehensive indeed. Joining him through to the semi-finals is Jeff Gyasi, Nils Naujok, Marcel Shinjik, Jacob Brzezinski, and Enzo Benito. Tommy Osgaard, Bono House, Patrick Holtzman, Lucas Muller, Peter Berryman, and Dane Warren will all have to wait for round 4 to get some of those big points. Now it's time for quarterfinal number 2, and it was Erhan Yuyovsky who was on pole position. Ryan Barneveld was in second. Darren McCormack in that Mercedes is in third. But the big send, it was Eamon Murphy for G2 Esports, moves from 6th up into 4th position. It was beautifully done. It was maybe a little bit aggressive, but there was no contact indeed. But it's all about Oliveira now. Oliveira has a battle throughout the entirety of this race, trying to hold on to a top 6 position. As you can see there, he's in behind Mikel Gala. We're on board right now in lap number 3. Sends one down the inside of Eamon Murphy, trying to hold on to a P4. Murphy's like, absolutely not. I've worked too hard to be in this position. I am not giving this up for free. And then all of a sudden, Kevin Ellis Jr., one of the most successful drivers in this championship, makes it 3 wide down towards turn number 3. They all managed to get through okay. Oliveira does indeed hold on to that top 5. Kevin Ellis Jr. sent off wide, and now all of a sudden Kevin Siggy gets involved. Siggy makes a late lunge down in towards the hairpin on lap number 3, and it's the biggest shock of the day. Kevin Siggy makes a mistake all on his own. Didn't seem like there's any contact. The rejoin, well, that's questionable. Nearly takes out a car, but Kevin Siggy, unfortunately, is out at this stage of the competition. Back to the Oliveira show then, as he goes back up into P4. Eamon Murphy, this time around, has to be a bit more aggressive to try and retake that 4th position. Doesn't really need to do so, but ultimately giving us a show to watch indeed. Love to see it. Kevin Ellis Jr. just sat patiently in behind in P6, hoping to pick up some insurance by getting an extra position, because he's got Moritz Lohner in behind. Down towards turn number 5, the 2 BMWs creating a roadblock. And again, Kevin Ellis Jr. just got to be patient. Oliveira ran off into the grass, still manages, though, to maintain that top 5 position. And you think this is over, ladies and gentlemen. It is not. This is for the final qualifying spot to go through to the semi-finals. Oliveira takes that defensive line down towards the hairpin. Kevin Ellis Jr. trying to find a bit of momentum around the outside, then has to go defensive on Moritz Lohner. But this is the mistake that cost the Brazilian. Makes one error as we head onto the back straight before we get into that final chicane, and this ultimately cost him the position with Kevin Ellis Jr. And then Moritz Lohner was able to pick up the pieces a little bit later on. But look at this, it's still close here, almost 3 wide between all 3 drivers. Ellis Jr. then round the outside, not really left enough room. He then is under pressure all of a sudden from Moritz Lohner. You can see then that Mitchell de Jong then comes through as well. You've got Tim Yarshall for FaZe trying to get involved in this party. And again, you think it's over. It absolutely is not over. These drivers were racing like this from start to finish. It was absolutely sensational. And again, Yuyovsky, who won the race, has no idea that was happening behind him. But Yuyovsky did take the checkered flag and did take quarterfinal number 2. Joining him through to our semi-final 1 is Darren McCormack, Ryan Barneveld, Eamon Murphy, Moritz Lohner, and Kevin Ellis Jr. because Oliveira had a penalty in the end of a slowdown. Mitchell de Jong finishes in 7th, Oliveira in 8th, Kevin Siggy 9th, James Baldwin in 10th, Tim Yarshall in 11th, and then Mikel Gala is in 12th spot.
Man, oh man, what a race that was. Luke, that was so incredibly intense, but I need to ask you, Erhan Yoyovsky with that incredible performance, first place in qualifying, finishes up the race as well in first place. For the side of R8G, is this a typical kind of performance from them? You know, qualifying incredibly well and then building on that to give them their 5 finals placements so far?
Yeah, 100%. They've historically in this championship, albeit we're in the third round of it, they are the team to beat. They are the team at the top of the team championships, and every single driver has contributed towards that. Erhan Yoyovsky getting his first victory of the championship as well, which serves him perfectly well. I will say one thing though, you know, that's the positives. The crazy negatives here, Kevin Siggy not making it through to our semi-finals, which I know everybody who's watching right now on Twitch will be like, whoa, that's a huge name to see missing at this point. And also, I'll throw something out there. Oliveira, if he didn't get a penalty, one of either Moritz Lohner or Kevin Ellis Jr., 2 of only 6 drivers who's made it to both finals so far during this ESL R1, one of them would not have made it. So they've got through by the skin in their teeth. They've been given a second opportunity. So now really it's on them to take full advantage of that.
And how about on the G2 side of things? Joni Tomala obviously finished first in quarterfinals as well. Do we think he'll make it to his very first finals here at ESL R1 and give G2 their second finals placement?
He was the second fastest in terms of qualifying time. He was 0.02 of a second slower than Niels Najoks, which is absolutely nothing. He did a 53.054. Only 2 drivers managed to get into the 53 zeros. And then once he did get into the lead, just drove off. And we didn't see that in every single quarterfinal. He looked brilliant.
Were there any other sort of drivers that kind of really stood out to you, or perhaps even drivers that you had expected a little bit better of a performance out of?
Well, Kevin Siggy's a big surprise to me, ultimately, because he's one of the very best all-rounders in the world of sim racing. But I will say a positive over a negative. Furia really have turned up in the quarterfinals. You know, the BMWs seems to be a little bit stronger, but you still need to drive that car across the line in the right positions to get through to a semi-final and albeit into a final. Furia have got 3 drivers, you know, one of only 6 teams to do that. So they've done really, really well. So I'm excited to see how they get on in the semi-finals.
And how about Enzo Benito as a driver? What do you kind of make of him?
Enzo
there we go.
Benito is delicious.
That's it, just delicious, that's all?
Oh, he's an absolute dish, smoke show of a human being. He's someone who qualified outside the top 6 in his quarterfinal, was under some severe pressure, but managed to get some overtakes on a track that, well, during the quarterfinals, we didn't really see too many overtaking opportunities, but he managed to indeed calm himself down and get himself into that top 6 position and get himself through, and that's what good drivers do.
Well, focusing a little bit more on Enzo Benito, with a 6th place finish over in Hockenheimring finals previously, I want to hear a little bit more about him and how the concept of teamwork applies to him and all of his Redline family.
I grew up a lot, especially in the last couple of years. Redline has always been like, I was like 15 when I joined, so and they were already like the biggest esports team back in the day. So for me, like as 15 years old, I was absolutely mind blown. All my achievement would have not been done without them, 100%. We created this group super strong. Started to definitely take care of teammates way more than I was when I was younger. Team Redline is literally a family for me. One of my teammates could definitely win. I mean, I know their lap times, they are super strong, super quick. The field is super competitive. It's probably one of the most competitive I have seen. And yeah, we will try our best, but I think all of them have a good shot.
Well, isn't that nice? I love the fact that, you know, a lot of our drivers really drive home this kind of concept of family and teamwork, because at the end of the day, we have the individual drivers' championships as well as the team championships as well. But if you folks at home are new around these parts, around these ends, you might have a ton of questions going through your mind. So I'd like to open up the floor, as it were, to all of the folks joining us in chat. Type away, send us in your questions either in the chat or on social media. and we will be answering them all throughout the show as well. Make sure you are following and tagging at ESL_R1 over on Twitter and using the hashtag ESLR1 as well, because we're going to be keeping our eyes peeled on all of your questions, concerns. If you want to hop into some Ren Sport yourself, you name it, we're going to be diving on into it as well. But, you know, Luke, today's games, today's drivers, they're going to be hyped, they're going to be prepped, they're going to be ready, because we have a brand new track. Without giving away too much, Nürburgring, Luke, what do you make of it so far? How have you found the experience?
Nürburgring's one of my favorite tracks actually to run on. It's got a really nice flow to it. It's very unique. It's a driver's circuit, and what I mean by that, it has a bit of everything. It has a lot of technical aspects to the circuit, but it also has some really fast-paced corners, but also it has some fast straights as well, where slipstreaming will come into play, and there is the potential for some overtakes. Watch out specifically for turn 1. That's where the majority of overtakes are going to happen. Also down in towards turn 7, which is another hairpin, and then up into the final chicane and the final corner, the Coca-Cola curve. So keep an eye on those specific places, because that's where the action's going to be happening.
Well, I'm ready to find out a little bit more about the action we can expect. So let's go ahead and drop a little bit of a visit over to Germany and check out Nürburgring.
Here we are at the Nürburgring, on board with Nils Naujux for BS competition in his BMW, and we start a flying lap. Across the start-finish line we will go. This is the fastest part of the circuit, the long run down towards turn number 1. Hard on the brakes, down to first gear, into the hairpin. Running out nice and wide. They're trying to then open up turn number 2 by setting the car as far right as possible, using the curb to help rotate the car, and then using all of the track on the exit of turn number 2. Turn 3, a very unique corner. There's a little groove on the inside of the curb. If you get the left wheels in, can help rotate the car, and then it's all about opening up turn number 4 as we make the long run down towards 5 and 6. Probably some of the most important corners on the track, because you've got the long run down to the hairpin. So let's check out the line through here. Really nicely done there from Nils Naujux, using all of the track on the exit of 6 down towards 7. And in the race, you're going to have to get a good exit, because this is a good overtaking opportunity. As we run down in towards 7, we've got the cambered part of the corner, helping the car rotate here, running out nice and wide on the exit. Once again, you need a good exit, because you have to protect yourself from a potential move into the Schumacher S's. Running the car as far left through the entry, so that you don't run into the gravel on the exit. That's a brilliant bit of work there from Naujux. We've now got a left-right complex here. Once again, you've got to get a really good exit, because if you don't, you're going to be in trouble. It's another good overtaking opportunity once we get up the top of the hill. Now it's flat out all the way up towards that final chicane. Let's listen to the purr of this BMW. Oh, brilliant exit. Lightningly fast here from the German on the brakes, then up towards that final chicane, using as much curb as you dare, running out wide once again. Now it's one more corner to go. It's a really tough corner, because the camber doesn't really help you out, and you've got to try and stay as close to that wall as possible, run out as far wide as possible. It's so easy to get a slowdown or invalidate your lap, and as we go across the line, that is a lap here of the Nürburgring.
What a track. Boy, oh boy. I feel like chaos is definitely going to be ensuing once we head on over onto that track. Nürburgring, 15 different turns at that as well, Luke. How do you feel like the ability of adjusting brake bias is going to factor into this one, given the amount of different types of turns we have?
Well, first of all, how much field of view do you want? ESLR1, yes. There's lots of field of view in that video. Brake bias is going to be key. That's one of the only things you can change on the car. And heading down towards turn number 1 with cold brakes is going to be, you know, last of the late breakers, Furia showed us in the quarterfinals that they were willing to send City from Furia. And I think we're just going to see a little bit more from that. I'm not sure how, I don't know how positive everyone was about the potential netcode and whatnot, but apparently it's so good that they can go side by side, can have a little bit of you know, rubbing is racing, as they say. So I think we're going to see people really send it.
Well, I am certainly excited to welcome another 2 brand new faces, to me at least, to the broadcast. George and Lewis, how are you both doing? Are you excited for the semi-finals today?
Hey Jasmine, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, and great to see Luke back as well, and of course my partner in crime, Lewis McGlade. I'm pumped. Nürburgring, the green hell. It's not bad, is it, Lewis?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about the positives towards Luke there, but it's nice to be in there with you, Jasmine, and George as well. I mean, it's going to be a fantastic track to go racing on. We saw that in the quarterfinals as well. Can't wait.
All right, well, boys, I'm going to throw it over to you. I want each and every one of your predictions really quick. George, I'll start with you.
Oh, I'm going to go with Jeff Giassi. I think to perform today, I think Fury have got a good race in them.
Okay. Go ahead, Lewis.
I'm leaning towards R8G. I'm not sure which one. Marcel Chinchik, Hanyovsky were really strong finals. Don't count out Dara McCormack though. I know that Merck's struggling, but still, he's very fast.
Go on, Luke. Last but not least.
I think we're going to go for Niels Naujoks. He was the fastest in terms of qualifying pace. I think he would have learnt from what happened in the quarterfinals where people were sending out the inside. So I think Niels Naujoks will get the dub here.
All right, well, I'm excited to throw things over to the two of you. George and Lewis, take us through our very first race of the day.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. Of course, Nürburgring, folks, it is going to be sensational. The amount of technical corners, fast speed corners, you've got plenty of variation at this track. Lewis McGlade, it has delivered countless great races. We saw a superb quarter-final, obviously, with the, should we say, the community event that we put on show. Lots of action out on track, and I think we could see more tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this circuit is I'm normally very critical of it. I actually don't like the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit very much. However, watching the racing in the quarterfinals, I was watching it on RaceSpot TV. They were broadcasting the entire thing with Ewan O'Leary and Arjuna Kakabati, and I was like, I've got to barge my way in here. I've got to get in for this quarterfinal action because quarterfinal 3, barge my way. I was like, I've got to watch some of this. It was absolutely breathtaking for a circuit which is so hard to normally race at. It was just fantastic. I think we're going to see very similar stuff today.
I think we will. Marcel Chinchik, of course, back in. We've of course got R8G as a whole as part of this squadron of cars, and they have been certainly the most consistent team, I think, since we got this championship underway in round 1 at Katowice. I can't believe it has been the amount of time it's been since Katowice. It feels like it was just yesterday, but nevertheless, looking ever present. They are certainly Chinchik out on track for them. They've got such a talented roster, Lewis. I can see why you backed them.
Yeah, they've got such a talented roster. Hanyovsky's he is Marcel Chinchik at the moment. I'm just going to read you out some of the stuff using. Again, you know, I spoke about it quite a bit in Katowice, but I'm using the Rennsport phone to try and look through some of the results from the practice session that was on just before this. Marcel Chinchik topped it with a 53.067. So that's kind of the lap times we were talking about them aiming for. 52's unlikely, certainly, in this qualifying session, but Marcel Chinchik looking to get a lower 53. 53.0 less so, but maybe something like a 53.2, maybe a 53.1, somewhere like should be good for the front row.
Yeah, absolutely right indeed. Now making his way down through towards the home straight and across the line. He'll set first lap time at 53.2. Competitive lap there from Marcel Chinchik. Start as you mean to go on, CR8G.
Yeah, Kevin Ellis Jr. next one to come out. He did 53.1 in the practice session just before this. Let's see what the Apex Racing team driver can do across the line. Yet another Audi R8. 53.068. That is phenomenal from Kevin Ellis Jr. Can Moritz Lerner react to R8?
Well, we'll have to find out. Kevin Ellis Jr. with a blinder of a lap there at the top end. Of course, Apex Racing team looking very smart in this event in the Nürburgring. As we now see more cars cross the line. Moritz Lerner setting a 53.280, which will not topple Marcel Chinchik. But here comes Chinchik's teammate, Erhan Yuyovsky, who we're looking at our bottom left of screen.
Race winner in quarter-final 2. He'll head his way across the line and he will go to second. It's another 53.2, showing yet again how amazing that lap time was from Kevin Jr. Next one out, it'll be Niels Naujoks, and of course that's Luke Crane's pick. Is that the curse or is it going to be positive?
Oh, it's a positive.
Whoa.
It's a 53.064, an almighty 4,000ths of a second faster than Kevin Ellis Jr. But Dara McCormack, who we saw impressing in quarter-final, well, I mean, certainly the quarter-finals as a whole, as they now come up across the line, certainly the better performing Mercedes team, and he goes fourth fastest. Not enough to get to the top 3, but still in the top 6 nonetheless.
Exactly the same time as Erhan Yuyovsky as well. 53.263 split between 3rd and 4th. Ryan Barneveld up towards the line. What can he do? He good enough for 7th. All 7 drivers separated by a couple of tenths of a second. It's actually quite similar to day 2 of ESL R1 when we had all those times across the line in semi-final 1 where it was just absolutely incredible. Jeff Giassi up to the Furia.
Yeah, Jeff Giassi at 53.383. not enough to even get into the top 6. I think you'll be disappointed with that. Joni Tormela, the ever steady hand, the veteran behind the wheel who's been part of sim racing for ever so long. The flying Finn now up towards the line. Where's he going to go? He's going to go third fastest with a 1:53.226.
Yet another one of Williams Esports cars. They actually had 3 cars qualify their way through from the quarterfinals. It was only Dennis Schoeniger that was the one that failed to move his way through. So we'll see Nikodem Wisniewski out on, but Brzezinski up towards the line is the slowest time of this session. Last 2 to come through. We'll see Eamon Murphy, who's he's been a few drivers out on track. G2 Esports, though, have had some great pace. Let's see what he can do across the line. And then it's Luke's boyfriend, Ite.
Yeah, absolutely. Eamon Murphy, though, going third fastest with a 53.180. Of course, joining G2 this year for the 2023 season. Enzo Benito, the man we saw earlier on, representing Team Redline. He spoke about the wholesome atmosphere. Can they manage to march their way to the top? Not quite. Certainly not a great lap at all for Enzo Benito by his standards. 11th place.
No, that's a big shame for Team Redline that was struggling quite a bit. Obviously, we saw Kevin Siggy getting knocked out in the finals as well. That's a big hit for the team, but you've got to say those lap times for the top 2, absolutely phenomenal and great stuff from Niels Nyrox. Luke does know what he's talking about. He's the expert.
He does know what he's talking about, doesn't he? Niels Nyrox, yet again impressive. Fastest in his quarterfinal yesterday. Now returns, does it again in the semis. It just proves, doesn't it? Age is just a number. He's the more experienced member of this roster, certainly the more experienced member of this grid, probably of this championship as a whole. It just goes to show that he has got the pace levied enough to give BMW a big chance of scoring some big numbers. And certainly coming into this event, BMW BS competition, this has been their best performing chapter in this ESL R1 book, shall we say, because certainly they had a very tough opening first 2 rounds, but you get a sense that maybe there is some cogs turning for BS competition right now.
There's potential for them, and they're really starting to show that potential. They're really starting to move their way forward, as we kind of expect from BMW's competition. They are a very solid squad in the world of sim racing. The thing is that Rennsport's so new. It's, again, we've said it time and time again, it is in alpha, and yes, everyone, you will get it at some point. So not start panicking too much. But it's new for all these drivers behind the scenes. They're all effectively the alpha testers when it comes to this competition. They're learning every single time they're going into a race. They are learning more and more and more. And so some of these teams that might be struggling now, I mean, they might be challenging later on in the season.
They could well be. And if we just look at the times themselves, about how minimal they certainly were in qualifying just now. We saw in the quarterfinals, they were not scared to rub wheel to wheel, side by side, at least lick some of the paint off the car. I'm on that basis, we can only expect yet more drama and more action as we go racing at Nürburgring.
Well, we can see the lap times there over the left-hand side. They're in practice, by the way. This is not the start of the race, so this is the little session between qualifying and the race. So no panics happening for the teams and squad. For anyone watching at home, we're not. Trust me, George will unleash the shouting. Don't you worry. This is not.
You'll know the cue. You'll know it.
Yeah. When he says go, you know what's
go
does
happen. Mean go, by the way.
I was going to say Kevin Ellis Jr. as well. That is a superb lap time. This is more leading towards a BMW sort of circuit. I mean, 3 of the top 4 are BMWs, but Kevin Ellis Jr. doing 306.8, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, we got the starting grid as well, folks, so we're going to take you through it now. Of course, Niels Nyrox is on pole position. He's going to be joined, though, at the front by Kevin Ellis Jr. The Brit will be alongside him, looking to take advantage down towards turn 1. Eamon Murphy on row 2, alongside the Finn, Joni Tormela. In behind them, we've got Erhan Yujovski making up a 2-parter RHG team, with Dara McCormack alongside him. Another impressive qualifying performance from the Irishman. Chinchik in behind his teammate Yujovski, alongside him Moritz Lerner for Mouse. In behind those then, Ryan Barneveld, representing, of course, BS competition BMW, with Jeff Giassi and Furia lining up alongside him. Enzo Benito, in what can only be described, I'm sure, as a bit of a short status qualifying session from him. I'm sure he would have wanted more, but he lines up alongside Jakub Brzezinski as we get started here in this session.
Yeah, incredible stuff. And again, the Silver Fox comes out on top. Of course, Niels Nyrox. A bit close though, just 3 and a bit tenths separating first through 12th. as we expect, it's incredibly close, but we're looking only for 6 drivers to move on to the final later on this evening. And I don't know, genuinely, I couldn't tell you who it's going to be. I think Enzo Benito starting from 11th and down the grid. I'm not so sure it's going to be them.
No, well, we'll have to wait and see, folks. We're about to go racing. You can hear the engines revving here at the Nürburgring, and we are underway here in this semi-final round. Pedal to the metal indeed, and it is go, 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 go. Look at the back there. We can already see action kicking off. Free wide, though, into turn 1 already. Kevin Ellis Jr. going deep, though, from Eamon Murphy, who got a very good jump off the line, though, leading the way. Nils Niox, as he did so from qualifying. Further back, Kevin Ellis Jr. in the Audi as well. Look at Dara McCormack, also getting squeezed as well as they work their way through the initial sectors. Niox in first, Kevin Ellis Jr. under threat, though, from Eamon Murphy.
Yeah, Murphy was super aggressive there, got it down the inside coming into T3, but it was Kevin Ellis Jr. that fended him off and held on second position. They'll race their way down Valvoline and forward. Big bit of contact there onto the rear end of Moritz Lerner from Jeff Giassi, Ryan Barneveld, Enzo Benito, Jinski, the ones down outside of the top 6, along with Marcel Cincic, who ended his podium streak in the finals. He didn't get a podium in that, but still looking to try and bounce back in this. Currently 7th, not good enough as Enzo Benito. It goes from bad to worse. The 37 going to 12th.
Yeah, something's not clicking for Benito right now. He's at the back of the field, propping the classification up. The 2 RAG cars very much, well, primed together. Just look at it, nose to tail between them up at the top end. Obviously, though, the issue they've got is, should it stay like this, Cincic will not be going through into the next round. If you have a look on the left-hand side, folks, you've got green from 1 to 6. Those are the drivers that will go through to the final later on, obviously making up the first part of the final round, obviously semi-final 1, as we're now seeing cars make their way up through towards the next chicane. Of course, then heading up through towards the final corner at the end of the opening lap. Niox leading, though. Kevin Ellis Jr. in behind, looking pretty smart as well. Cincic obviously trying to prime an opportunity to perhaps break into that top 6. Knows that he needs it if he wants to continue the dynamic rise of RAG in this competition. We saw it in our first round, not to mention round 2 as well. But I've got to say, credit to your man as well, Dara McCormack, looking ever so smart as we now look at Yuyovski, who looks very threatening on the back of Eamon Murphy.
Yeah, we say about BMW being one of the stronger cars, one of the stronger vehicles around here. The Mercedes certainly isn't. It looks like it's been the one that struggles more so around the Nürburgring Grand Prix. And yet Dara McCormack still manages to find something. His belief, to be honest. Although, I guess when you get through in the quarterfinal in such a way, it reinvigorates some of your positivity towards the race, and thus you pushed your way forward. Enzo Benito moving up a single position past Ryan Barneveld, who's trying to get it back around the outside of Valvoline, inside of Ford. It was nearly a big for Barneveld.
Yeah, it certainly was. You can see at the bottom left-hander that Nils Niox is primed and ready, looking to attack, obviously leading this race. And it's very nearly broken a second on Kevin Ellis Jr. as well here on lap 2 of 8. So a very strong start from him as they now make their way up through out of that sector. We've got a penalty for Jeff Giassi, and he's going to receive, well, he's going to have to give up 1 position due to causing a collision. Now that will hurt.
Yeah, I think he's already given it up. That was obviously, he was behind Moritz Lerner and he made contact to his position to Jakub Brzezinski. So there is that. There's also a set in the background between Ryan Barneveld and Enzo Benito. They are fighting over points. Those that are finishing lower down aren't going to progress along in this competition. They are scoring points. So 7th through 12th, getting 11th over 12th, it does matter in the long run. It will gain you a couple of extra points. Sure, it's not going to feel great, but if your chances of already qualifying have gone, why not battle out? Why get something special? Those inside the top 6, though, hold position, hold fire, and don't worry too much, as at the moment they are progressing through to a final.
Yeah, there's lots to consider. Obviously, in terms of the points, you've got to think of the majors, not to mention the championships as a whole, as we now see once again the 2 RAG cars breaking apart. You see there Cincic just having a look down the inside of Johan Yuyovski as they now prime up a move perhaps on Joni Tormala, who has been absolutely tremendous. G2 on for a superb result here, should it stay like this. Obviously, Eamon Murphy currently sat in 3rd place, trying to close up on Kevin Ellis Jr. Doesn't really need to. Dara McCormack, of course, in behind, currently sandwiched between the 2 G2 BMWs as they now make their way heading down towards the next series of bends. Obviously, still plenty to come. Forward curve will come up after turn 6 and turn 7 as they whip through and very shortly send it down towards Dunlop at turn 8. There we see certainly the car in the front order of things. Nils Nyok still unchanged at the front and making his way down through towards the Dunlop curve now. Just seems so composed. He seems to enjoy the Nürburgring, Lewis, and seems well in tow. I mean, especially upsetting that flying lap that we saw in qualifying. Comes back again, leads the way here in the race format.
Could be a very big day for them. Like you said about them moving forward after their let's call it what it was, fairly shoddy run back in Katowice. They're looking like a very different beast now, BMW in BS competition, especially of Nils Nyok, pulling away 1.1 seconds clear of Kevin Ellis Jr. The BMW does seem to look after its tyres. I know these races are shorter than what we were dealing with in Katowice. They've gone from being roughly 20 minutes to being shrunk down to around 15. That's why we're going for 8 laps rather than a couple more. Some people might expect us to go for around about 10 with them running around about 2-minute lap times, but no, it is 8 is the number they're aiming for. I shouldn't play too much of a factor, but it doesn't mean you can't just slam the throttle pedal down and just lean on them unbelievably heavily. You've got to look after the tyres still to three. Nyok doesn't care about that. He's just checked out and is running away from everyone. Incredible stuff. As we see Dara McCormack under pressure from Joni Tourmala.
Yeah, we certainly do. He's looking so primed at the moment. Dara McCormack obviously doing his best here. Just look at this, though. Erhan Yujovski again searching here on Joni Tourmala, because while it's not necessarily for the betterment of Yujovski's race, he's considering his teammate Marcel Chinchik. Now, the more cars that they can get through to the final, the better for RAG, and they've done so brilliantly for the first 2 rounds of the championship. They want to do exactly the same in round 3, but Tourmala doing enough to deny that of Yujovski heading out of Mercedes Arena curve as they now sprint around turn 6.
Fantastic stuff. Again, they're all holding line of stone. There's not too much drama happening at the moment, which is actually counter to what we're in the quarterfinals, where they were drama city. Is there going to be a switch there between Erhan Yujovski and Marcel Chinchik? Of course, those teammates could well find themselves fighting over the 5 transfer spot. It's what they're presently fighting over at the moment, but I wouldn't classify this as fighting, George. I think they're just sat there letting things unfold, going after anything from Yujovski. I think in a couple of laps' time that is going to change.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they perhaps leave it till later on, obviously trying to pick their spots. Because like we say, tyre deg is obviously a factor as well. Now, you might choose to just sit in behind, maybe just rest your tyres as best you can, and then perhaps when the race gets a little bit more volatile, should we say, unleash then the beast as they now make their way up through towards the next game. We'll have to wait and see. We know that RAG have managed this championship very well so far. Certainly the best team to have managed it so far, coming out into this round with 234 points in their back pocket. That was still far from the ending of this championship. Plenty more to come, folks. We're now seeing them round the final Coca-Cola curve and make their way down through towards the Castrol S, the first corner, of course, heading out of turn 1 into turn 2, where they'll venture into the Mercedes Arena. There we see the cars now down the straight. Dara McCormack just breaking out of the air there in front, of course, Eamon Murphy occupying that P3 spot. McCormack just having a little nose there, going slightly defensive again, McCormack, because Tourmala is in behind, and I'm sure would fancy to get ahead. At least that would relieve some of the pressure from RAG, because I know they may not be fighting right now, but the time will come, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, McCormack's not going for anything against Eamon Murphy at the moment, but I get the feeling that Joni Tourmala might end up going for something on Dara McCormack. He's not feeling super safe. Whilst 5th is a transfer spot, the more this race goes on, we're only halfway through this one. Trust me, this is going to kick off for the final few laps. There is going to be the door open. Someone going to make a light mistake. I mean, Erhan Yujovski's out a little wide there coming through forward, and once again, he's kind of grateful that it's his teammate behind, giving a bit of a bump draft coming down to the Dunlop pair, because had that have been Moritz Lerner and that mistake, I can almost guarantee you the Macedonia will be down a position outside of the crucial top 6.
Absolutely right indeed, and anything can happen, certainly here at the Nürburgring, folks, and we're looking forward to seeing who can take advantage. Nyok, though, leading the way. Kevin Ellis Jr. in behind, who has had a pretty decent run as well himself so far, getting a lovely jump off the line. Eamon Murphy just in behind too, and Dara McCormack, who is sat in between the two G2 BMWs, pretty much running his race as best he can, and obviously just trying to keep content given the current status of things. Obviously everything is all about the final. We saw, of course, the first 2 finals decided with the likes of Maximilian Benecke taking our very first one. We saw how emotional he was at Katowice, and then following that, his great rival over the years, Joshua Rogers, also picking one up. We've got to ask ourselves as well, we will be seeing those 2 drivers later on. could it be the day where we see someone maybe go back to back, or maybe just take the second? Because anything's a possibility at this point.
Certainly is. I mean, the thing is, Josh Rogers has been very, very... Don't see Porsche Commander out in this, because Porsche Commander have once again had a bit of a mare when it comes to their quarterfinals. Lots of drama for them. There was a bit of a send in the background there on Moritz Lerner from Jakub Brzezinski. And once again, this is starting to get a bit close. It's starting to get a little bit more uncomfortable for Yannick Tourmala and Erhan Jofsky. Marcel Chinchik, Moritz Lerner and Jakub Brzezinski want their piece in it, and don't count Benito from behind as well to get himself involved. You're absolutely right, is that when we get into that semi-final too, there's a lot of heavy hitters, including 2 race winners in R1. I don't know, with the performance that we're seeing from Niels Nyox right now, he does look like a very hard man to beat.
He does. He's about half a second up now. He's just gone 6/10 further up on that 1 second gap that we saw earlier on. So he is now looking to check out here at this point and deliver a win for the BMW BS competition team as they now round the hairpin at the right-hand side. Moritz Lerner going a little deep, as now we saw Brzezinski, who's also looking to try and lift himself out. Now Williams Esports having a very successful quarterfinal, getting 3 drivers into the semi-final as a whole, but the 2 RAG cars now looking to turn up the heat. They got so close, of course, at the start of this lap 6 of 8, and everything is all about the final, as I alluded to as well, as we now see them whip their way through this next right-hander. Of course, then it'll be a lift up through towards the very quiet right-hander before then you make your way into the final chicane section as well. Quite a few helter-skelter moments, almost a roller coaster circuit in many ways, as we're seeing the RAG cars now in our picture. Now tackling that final chicane, rumbling over the curves as well, as we head down now very shortly, taking the penultimate lap of this race at the Nürburgring. The heat is turning up now as we see them getting closer and closer. Jojowski right on the tailbone of Yannick Tourmala.
Yes, I know it's been said in chat, there's been the discussion, there's been too many overtakes thus far in the race. I get the feeling that is going to turn on its head at some point. It's got to. These drivers have got to do something. Oh, that was quite a costly mistake from Moritz. Into the rear end of Erhan Jofsky. He was just, Marcel Chinchik rather, who was just in the middle of the road a little bit behind teammate Erhan Jofsky, who we look at now. But wow, it was just a little bit of a mistake. This is a lot calmer than I thought it would be. A lot calmer, certainly, than what we saw in the quarterfinals. Is that going to turn around, or is it just because these drivers are so damn good, they are not making even the slightest mistakes now?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, when's the point that the team manager steps in and almost says, look, guys, we need to try and get both cars into this next round? Is he going to get on the phone, right, like final lap, let's attack Yannick Tourmala? I mean, surely that's got to be the job. You know, they got Chinchik on the cusp of getting into the getting into the final, so they really need him to turn up the heat, not to mention get Jojowski to perhaps help him open the door. I mean, it's all question marks right now, but I'm sure if I am the RAG team boss, that's the sort of questions I'll be asking.
Yannick Tourmala took a lot of curb at the second part of the Schumacher rest. I thought that might have actually dragged Jojowski into it. This is the thing, if Tourmala makes any sort of mistake, Jojowski's going to go for it. Not because he wants the position, it might open the door for his teammate to come through as well. Back up to the race leader with the lap to go. He is being caught a little bit by Kevin Ellis Jr. That R8 for Apex Racing Team does seem to have some decent long-run pace.
Yeah, it does. The Audi looking pretty smart as well. Kevin Ellis Jr., who is not... It's not his first dance, should we say, in getting into a semi-final. He's done it before, and I'm sure Apex Racing Team would be thrilled to see him back at it again. Second place in this contingent here in semi-final 1. But now on the final lap of the race here at the Nürburgring, Niels Nyox leading them down through towards turn 1. Kevin Ellis Jr. in the mix, Eamon Murphy. And look now down the inside as well from Eamon Murphy and Dara McCormack. A late break from Moritz Lerner, who now tackles Marcel Chinchik. This is what we were waiting for, folks. Could this be 2 for the price of 1 here for Moritz Lerner, who hangs around the outside there of Erhan Jofsky, very nearly losing 2 places there, RAG. Tucking it up the inside again, Moritz Lerner, as now they sprint up the Mercedes Arena curve. Heart-in-mouth stuff. Chinchik, though, loses a place.
Swift hands from Lerner as well on the exit of the mid part of the Mercedes Arena section, because did you see how sideways he was coming over? I think he was trying to move over to cover off Marcel Chinchik. Alas, nearly lost end of the car and nearly opened up the opportunity for Chinchik to come back again, gaining a couple of points, but not that all-important 6th place. Is the opportunity to come into the NGK chicane? I don't know.
Absolutely right indeed. Big, big moments. I tell you what, no fear on the send there for Moritz Lerner. I tell you what, he took them all by surprise, managed to get nearly 2. Did get the 1 nonetheless, though, but it won't be enough to get through to the next round. But points mean prizes as now they work their way up through towards the final sector on this lap 8 of 8. Nils Nyox still leads the way and will no doubt, I'm sure, as long as he stays in command, stays in control, take a first win of this semi-final round here in this session now, as we see them now make their way up through towards the next right. There is Nils Nyox, who is now going to make his way through the next chicane for the final time here in our first semi-final here tonight in the BMW represented BS competition, who are now, I'm sure, going to be on the edge of their seats as their certainly experienced contender once again comes up towards the line. He was perfect in qualifying, perfect here in the race. Nils Nyox wins here at the Nürburgring. Kevin Ellis Jr. in second. Eamon Murphy comes home in third. Another brilliant Dara McCormack performance in fourth. Yoni Tormler in fifth. And Erhan Yujovski holds on to 6 for R8G, Lewis McGlade.
That was quite a celebration from Nils Nyox across the line. That was some of the most aggressive I think I've ever seen. He's got good car control, so fair enough. Obviously, potentially some of that tyre saving might have actually been at the end of the race, and he really used it early on. That's why he pulled out quite a large margin to Ellis Jr., who closed it back up again. But yeah, incredible stuff. Murphy and Tourmaline, 2 G2 esports moving through. Williams esports, Dara McCormack, Erhan Yujovski, the sole R8G. That is a big shame for them moving through from semi-final 1.
Do you think that they'll be disappointed with that performance? Because I half expected, obviously, Marcel Chinchik to really announce his arrival into the top 6. He looked like that's what he was waiting for, the final couple of laps, maybe Erhan Yujovski to open up the door for him. Do you think there might have been some miscommunication there, Lewis?
Potentially so. I mean, Marcel Chinchik is the driver that's second in the standings, in our point standings from, of course, what we ended with coming into this. So he's one of the strongest drivers in the competition. Yes, this will feel like a big loss, but he's still scoring decent points. Yes, he's not got through to a final, but it's still healthy points. It's still decent stuff from the semi-finals. He got through the quarterfinals. That's the important bit. He got to what a lot of these drivers' goals will be at the moment. It's just making sure they're actually still competing on Monday afternoon as well as just Friday.
Yeah, well, we're going to head now across to Nils Nyox, who is with Jasmine and Luke.
Thank you very much, guys. I love the amount of energy you were bringing to the broadcast. But Nils, congratulations are in order. How are you feeling after that incredible performance?
Great, to be honest, because it's been a long time that I'm driving back with the top guys, and taking a what do you call it, a sprint or a semi-final win is special, especially in ESL.
Okay. So, obviously, taking a look at some of your previous results, you had the fastest time for your quarterfinals qualifier yesterday. You've done it once again for the qualifiers today. And now, as a result of that, you have the first and third fastest times on Nürburgring. So, talk to me a little bit more about the preparation and what that's kind of looked like heading into semifinals today.
Because the races are so short, the qualifying is very, very important, passing super hard. So we're focusing a lot on doing this qualifying lap, and we just do quali lap after quali lap after quali lap in the exact same format that we will do in the actual race. So this is our entire practice, just doing those qualifying laps and really trying to enshrine those into the back of my brain so I don't have to think about it anymore. Then luckily since Friday, I don't know, just got even more of a groove a bit. Found maybe a 10th or so I felt I had a bit of a cushion into the qualifying. Wasn't the greatest of laps, so I doubled my gap to P2. I think it was 2,000s to Yoni on Friday, and now it was 4,000s to Kevin, so I'm trying to double that again to 8,000s to whoever is second in the final.
Well, congratulations
once
again. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry to cut you off, Luke, but we do have some highlights. I'm going to let you quiz a little bit shortly.
that far back. But two drivers that have made it to all the finals so far, Moritz Lohner and indeed Marcel Schinchik, they are not making it through here. So that is now going to be a maximum of 4 drivers heading into round number 4, if those 4 drivers manage to make it through in semi-final number 2. But Jasmine, this is your first real experience of seeing the racing here. What did you think?
I thought it was pretty darn intense. I think it was certainly impressive stuff, to say the very least. The real question is, though, and I'm really intrigued to see whether or not Kevin Ellis Jr. will be able to claim yet another sort of solid finals placement. Obviously, taking a look at some of his previous results, finishing in 9th place and finishing in 4th place over in the finals. The real question is Nils feeling confident enough to kind of win out versus him? What do you think?
Kevin is someone who's kind of just about qualified every single race so far. Like, he's not really shown anything super special. But I guess just getting to every final in itself is a special talent. But that is the biggest result so far for Kevin Ellis Jr. We know what he's capable of. He's one of the very best drivers when it comes to a Porsche Carrera Cup when it was on iRacing. Now we head to here. He's starting to find those performances. The fact that he's made 2 finals already in a row, and now he's starting to really cook on gas. Yeah, he's going to be a danger for everybody for sure.
Well, I kind of want to take another look at our results as well, Luke. If you wouldn't mind taking me through it, give me your initial thoughts. Any kind of drivers that really stand out to you? Anybody you expected to perform a little bit better?
Well, Nils Daljok qualified pole and learnt from what happened on Friday, where people were sending it left, right and centre, and he lost a couple of spots. But this time, he managed to hold on to the lead. Kevin Ellis Jr. did that's a big surprise to me. I thought he might just go through or just be outside into that bottom 6, but no, he performed exceptionally well. Eamon Murphy, again, under the radar, just getting the job done. Dara McCormack, he's a superstar in the making, such a young driver. I think he's our 3rd youngest driver. That's an exceptional performance. And again, one of the fastest Mercedes out there. Yoni Tormula, really good for G2, getting 2 drivers through to the final. Erhan Yayovsky proving that, you know, he is one of the best. But the big surprise for me is Moritz Lohner, Marcel Schinchik. They have made 2 finals in a row, and it's just not going to be a 3rd. And Moritz Lohner is currently 3rd in this championship as well, so that is massive. And Marcel Schinchik is 2nd in this championship. So yeah, this is great news for the likes of Max Benneker and Josh Rogers for semi-final number 2, but they now have to go and get that job done as well.
I mean, I was really clinging on for hope. You know, after watching the Team Redline interview we saw a little bit early on with Enzo Benito, I was kind of crossing my fingers a little bit. I was hoping the team spirit and the wonderful interview he gave might have kind of given him a little bit better of a performance. Did you expect a little bit more coming out of Enzo as well?
Yeah, 100%. I actually spoke to him Friday where he bottled qualifying. He admitted that himself. He didn't do a good job in qualifying in the quarterfinals, and he managed to, by the skin of his teeth, make it through to our semi-finals. He was even slower in qualifying this time round, so it just wasn't, it wasn't at the races this week, I guess. It's just, that's how it's happened. He said he hasn't hit a low lap time like that in all of his practice, so it's just doing it at the right time. But this is Enzo Benito. He's one of the stalwarts of sim racing. So this is just a blip, really. It's just one weekend where it's just not gone quite well. He's far too good to let this affect him as well. But yeah, it is a massive surprise, but it just goes to show how important qualifying is, because if you are outside that top 6, it's very difficult to find any room to maneuver, especially around the Nürburgring.
Do you think it might have been the element of performing online at all?
No, Enzo Benito has been there, done it. He's done everything you can imagine in sim racing. He is legitimately one of the very best out there. I don't think there's anyone in the world that would disagree with that. I think if you gave everyone an opportunity to give you 10 top sim racers, he's in everybody's list. So it's just a blip, really. These things happen. We saw it from his teammate Kevin Siggy, who, again, if you gave everyone a 10 driver list, he would make it, but he didn't make it through the quarterfinals. It's just an off weekend for them. I'm a bit surprised because BMW seems like it's the strongest car as well, so they'll definitely feel like there's an opportunity missed. But as we brought up at the start of the show, there is a drop score, so not all is lost.
Well, we still have plenty more still to come, and one semi-final down, another one to go, and then we have our finals as well. So let's have a little bit of a recap for our quarterfinals 3 and 4 to reveal our next 12 drivers.
Here are the quarterfinal 3 and 4 highlights for the ESL R1 round 3 and the Nürburgring, and it is pole position for Luke Bennett, the young pretender versus the old calf in Josh Rogers, but it was not about them as we head down towards turn number 1, because Victor Veloso for Furia, starting 10th, makes an almighty send, makes it 4 wide, bit of argy-bargy for sure, but gets up into a top 6 position with maybe, just maybe, move of the day. Also, Graham Carroll managing to go from 6th up to 4th position, managing to get ahead there of the Mouse and G2 Esports car, who had a hell of a ding-dong. There was a little bit of oversteer for Isaac Price out of turn number 1, which actually sent the Mouse car, Max Benneker, a little bit wide up towards turn number 2, but the return of the favour happened. Max Benneker moves up into a P5, and then Isaac Price, who did not have the best of races, unfortunately for him, then did indeed lose out down into P6. A bit further on then, lap number 3, is Victor Veloso, who was involved pretty much from start to finish, now under pressure from Jamie Fluke as we go a little bit further ahead here, and now we see a slowdown penalty which checks the whole field up. So Isaac Price does receive a penalty, and ultimately then that meant the Furia car went up into the back of him. The Apex car of Jamie Fluke then closes up, but all of a sudden Rainer Talver is like, well, thank you very much, I'm getting involved here as well, and it's a 3-way battle for that final qualifying position as well. Jamie Fluke gives a lovely nudge there to Rainer Talver. Rainer Talver will not be thinking it was lovely at all. As we head then on to lap number 5, it's still a battle for that final qualifying position just up the road, but these two costing each other an opportunity of getting involved with Victor Veloso because they are just battling so profusely. But look who else is in behind him. Isaac Price, even though he had a slowdown, is now back to try and gain a couple of spots. We've then got Bixrun as well for Heroic trying to get involved, but we head on to lap number 6 and we see something so rare in sim racing, a mistake from Josh Rogers. It didn't cost him anything, but we saw him almost go full sideways. Good recovery on board though here with Yuri Toman. He had the best seat in the house, but as we head up towards the end of this race, you could cover the front 3 with a loincloth. They were that close, didn't really battle it out in the end, but Luke Bennett, 17 years old, ladies and gentlemen, picks up a victory for Team Redline. Joining him through to our semi-finals will be Joshua Rogers. Yuri Toman will finish in 3rd. Graham Carroll, Maximin Benneker and Victor Veloso will indeed all go through to the semis. Unfortunately, we lose Rainer Talver, Jamie Fluke, Oscar Bixrud, Dennis Schuniger, Isaac Price and Ian Porter. In quarterfinal number 4, it was Yuri Kasdorp who had a terrible rounds 1 and 2, who started at pole position, and it was another Furia driver, but this time on the front row. It's Felipe Baptista. In 3rd was Team Redline's Jeffrey Rietveld. And well, the big story here is Robbie Stableford. Before the race had even begun, he jumped the start, and unfortunately with drive-through in a 15-minute race format, your race is over. So Robbie Stableford with a DNF. Such a shame, you know, all that practice to unfortunately make one mistake. We head then on board with Marco Pajic, who was in a 5th position, but look at that slide. That slide cost Pajic 2 spots. The Phil Denez comes through, says thank you very much. And Nikodem Wisniewski, who found a gap that just didn't seem to be there, manages to get involved here. They're still side by side on the exit of turn number 4. By the time they get down towards turn number 5, Wisniewski had indeed got that top 6 position. And then it was a battle here between Tartler and Johan Haaf. So if you don't get into the top 6, it's all about making sure you finish as high as possible, because this is the race that you're going to gain points if you're not going through to the semi-finals. We see a little bit of contact there between Williams and BS Competition. Phil Denez just about holding onto the car. Marco Pajic, who for 4 laps threw everything at Nikodem Wisniewski. Wisniewski did not crack under the pressure, and for the first time, we see that Marco Pajic just about had his nose up in front. Wisniewski was never going to give it up easily, but the invitation was then open to Heroic driver Thomas Tartler, who absolutely accepted that invitation, did get involved, and well, this battle just kept going on and on and on. We're heading up towards the final sector of lap number 6. For the first time, though, there was some side-by-side action between Pajic and Tartler, and Nikodem Wisniewski, for the first time, had a bit of breathing room as well. He would have been looking in his rearview mirror thinking, oh, this is brilliant. If you two can just keep being side-by-side, makes my job so much more easy. Up towards that final chicane, Marco Pajic was always going to try and outbrake the Porsche. Absolutely did so. Tartler then just loses out in terms of, he just can't get on the power. He's got a Mercedes in front of him. Then he's under pressure from the FaZe driver. So Ozildarim comes through as well. The 2 Porsches battling out. Bit of argy-bargy as we head then onto lap number 7. And well, if that wasn't enough for the 2 Porsche drivers, Johan Haaf wanted to get involved as well. Johan Haaf, one of the top 10 in the championship, not having a good day here in round number 3. Side-by-side action down towards the hairpin. Haaf on the outside in the Apex Racing Team car. And then we have indeed got the Heroic car of Tartler. You see the Heroic livery there on the front bonnet of the Porsche, and they are almost touching there. It's brilliant driving from them all. Again, some frustration from these drivers, that is for certain, but they still drove with great integrity. Felipe Baptista for Furia, picking up the first ever victory for the Brazilian team. Great performance from the BMW driver, and a very happy team. 3 drivers going through to our semi-finals. Also joining Felipe Baptista is Yuri Kasdorp, Jeffrey Rietveld, we've got Mac Backham, Phil Dinez, Nikodem Wisniewski, and unfortunately, the 6 drivers that indeed will not be taking part in the semi-finals will be Marko Pejic, Ulas Ozildurim, Johan Haaf, Thomas Tartala, Risto Capit, and Robbie Stapleford.
Fantastic performance there, especially from Felipe Baptista as well. Luke, that was a little bit hectic to say the least, but you know what? I'm all for this Dinez and Nils kind of matchup in our finals, the first 2 finals placements for the side of BMW. The real question is though, do you think they have what it takes to make it to at least a top 4 placement?
I think Nils Naujoks does. Not sure Dinez has shown really the level of qualifying pace you need to get yourself at the sharp end. But then again, I'm willing to be proved wrong. I think the big story really of the day is Furia. I think Furia have got their first win under their belt as well. Managed to get 3 drivers through, where in Poland it was not looking good at all. And Yuri Kasdorp, who had a horrendous Poland, he was furious. He very much showed his emotions as well. So yeah, it was a good day for him. He managed to get qualified in pole position, and he got second in the race. He'll be looking to try and get himself to a final, just to sort of atone for the errors that were made in Poland. But Graham Carroll as well, big shoulders for him, because he's got the whole team on his back of Mercedes-AMG Petronas. So yeah, we're going to see Graham Carroll potentially try and get himself through to the first final for him.
Now, I know you're going to be watching a lot of these drivers like an absolute hawk, Luke. So the real question is, who have you ultimately got your eye on?
It's so difficult to make a prediction. Obviously, there was 3 of us making predictions.
Let's not do prediction. I'm not going to put you on the spot yet for a prediction. Let's talk statistics. Let's talk any drivers that you think have given you reason to believe, very much the potential was definitely there.
Well, there's 2 drivers in particular who were very, very close at the front there, with Yuri Toman actually quite close behind them as well. But it was Josh Rogers and Luke Bennett. Luke Bennett is 17 years old. Josh Rogers is still a young man. I think he's around 25 years old. I could be wrong. Well, there is Luke Bennett there. So he, not only got pole position, but won quarterfinal 3. Now that's impressive in itself. But to keep someone like Josh Rogers at bay that's won a full round. He won round number 2 last month, didn't he, in Poland? Like, that is some accolade to have. But not only, is he 17 years old, he's within one of the best teams. He's someone I actually spent a bit of time with in Poland, and he's a funny lad, right? He's proper Jack the lad, having a bit of fun with everybody. But when people like Enzo or Jeffrey Rietveld or even Kevin Siggy, although not many people take too much to what Kevin Siggy says seriously, but when it comes to the actual sim racing chat, you can just see him. He's cogs are moving in his head. He's listening to what's being said around him. Like, he has got a massive future ahead of him, and he's already performing at that top level. Like, legitimately, Jasmine, again, I know this is your first weekend. These are the best drivers in the world. Like, there's maybe 10 drivers that could come into this. Like, these are the very best. And if you're 17 years old and you're already performing at that level, the sky is the limit.
Well, I know that you wanted to certainly give props in way of Furia, so I want to find out a little bit more on the Furia side of things, but in particular, Felipe Baptista.
Felipe Baptista, 19, Furia, Brazilian, 21, stock car. I don't have. My brother. Spin. Yes. Myself. Instinct. Team. Be a world championship. To be driver. I'm crazy. Yes. I'm a good driver. I have a lot of experience in real life, so I need to do what I think, what I know to win a championship.
I'm so excited for them. This could be their first finals placement. Luke, what do you think Felipe and team and co kind of need to do to pull this all together and make it happen?
keep performing like they perform, right? They've got 3 drivers through. That's the most of any team. Okay, there are 6 teams that have done that, but getting 3 drivers through to the semi-finals is a massive step. I think it was a little bit too much for them in Poland. I think the emotion got to them. You can tell in their videos that they're very emotionally attached to Furia. They're all Brazilian. The organization is Brazilian. Furia are a huge esports organization coming into the world of sim racing. So it's a lot. That is a lot of expectation on shoulders, right? You know, they wouldn't have experienced that in sim racing, because sim racing is such a small niche that is growing. But to have someone like Furia come in and go, you are who we want to represent us. And I'll be honest, I wasn't really expecting to see this kind of performance this early. Yet here we are. So yeah, they have performed well to get this far, but I still think there's more to come this weekend specifically.
I think on the topic of teams, we certainly have plenty of teams that have an awful lot to offer. And like you said, when you have the backing of an organization, such a huge brand, that in itself is certainly going to mean the absolute world to a lot of these drivers here. So I want to take a little bit of a look at our team championship as well, Luke. Team championship will be ending after round number 8. How do you think this is going to end up affecting mentality and approach to R1 for all of our teams?
Well, there's 2 different types of teams in terms of the prize money. There's teams that it doesn't matter where you finish individually and the team result, you're going to share the money regardless, right? But then there's other teams that split it amongst how well you do. So if you get P1, you get 45 grand. It's as simple as that. So that's going to play into it. RAG came into this weekend as the strongest team. They've already lost a driver who's not going to make it through to the final in Marcel Shinchik, who was second in the championship, but so have Mals. So Mals have lost a driver in Moritz Lohner going through to the next stage. They're now all relies on Yuri Kasdorp and Maximilian Benneker. Apex Racing Team, they only got 1 driver through. It is all on Kevin Ellis Jr. So the likes of Team Redline, if they can have a really good second race here, if they can have a really good semi-final, they could push up the order. Coanda have got both their drivers in the next semi-final, so they ideally need both drivers to go through. So the dynamic is a couple of teams at the top end have faltered, and ultimately there's an opportunity for teams to then push forward.
Now, on the side of Porsche Coanda in particular, Joshua Rogers, a driver that you've kind of mentioned time and time again, has been the sole reason for them making it to finals twice thus far. What do you think the kind of teammates and everybody else surrounding him kind of need to do to kind of step up their game?
Well, first of all, I'm going to give him props in his team play, because he was going to come on and have an interview during the watch-along I had on Friday, and then he quickly said, look, it's too echoey in this building. Max got his next race. I don't want to, impede him at all. So he said, I'll come on another time, but I need to make sure that Mac gets through to the semi-finals with me. So he is not just thinking about himself. I think pound for pound, he's sort of the top 3 drivers in the world. I think there's an argument for a couple of others, but he is like a ridiculously talented driver in his own right. But the team, they're going to be backing him as much as possible. I think they all realise that he is going to be the driver they need to get behind the most if they want to see an individual champion, but they also need him to drag the rest of the team along, because Dane Warren is not through to the next stage here today. Didn't get to the semi-finals, and neither did Mitchell de Jong, 2 drivers that you just almost are a shoo-in to get through to a semi-final stage. So yeah, it's so important for Josh to do well, but he does put that team first.
Well, on the topic of Porsche Coanda, I'm curious to find out all sorts about what it's like to live with your teammates. So let's go ahead and find out.
So we actually live in a house together, full-time basically. Yeah, so we kind of know how each other are on a day-to-day basis. We do all our training together, everything, whether it be actually in the sim rig or physical training, things like that. So to be honest, we're kind of like a big family in a way.
Honestly, we have a really good synergy. We feed off each other, we take information from one another and really put that together to, I guess, elevate our own driving.
The decision to move in together for sure was, a big commitment, especially a lot of us come from different countries, Australia, from California, United States, back Netherlands, a little bit closer to where the house is, but, we kind of just grew up in this world playing games together online, racing together as a team.
We've known each other for so long, and even before we lived together, we were working together and we were obviously friends. So it's not really just a random bunch of people invited together and suddenly, oh, you have to start living together. It was, like if I knew these guys personally, you'd probably, you move out of your parents' house, you become roommates, something like that,
It would just be incredible to be able to win that championship for Porsche, for Coanda, for everybody. Obviously, as drivers, we want to go for the Drivers' Championship, but winning as a team is something that we've always done and strived to do, and I'm sure that the goal is to do no less than that.
Well, my expectation is that at least someone here wins the driver's title. I'm not going to say who, but I'm happy if anyone wins. Porsche Coanda!
I love this element of teamwork and family that we're seeing kind of run through a lot of these teams and a lot of these drivers as well. Completely uprooting your life is definitely not an easy task, and yet they've made it happen. And I love to see it for them. I love to see the passion that's behind all of those drivers as well. But Luke, spoiler alert, and a surprise for the folks at home as well, after the next race, we will have James Baldwin joining us on broadcast as well. So a reminder, even for yourself, Luke, for any folks that have any questions that they might want James to answer, go ahead and drop them in the chat. And remember to follow at ESL_R1 on Twitter and use the hashtag ESLR1 as well with any kind of questions, concerns, and what have you you might have, because yes, guest appearance of James Baldwin is happening. Luke, you're not going to be the only expert on broadcast.
No, he'll be the only expert on broadcast, I think. Also, we get to see his incredible tribal tattoo, something cut straight from the gods. He's a beautiful man.
All right, well, I want to go ahead and welcome back George and Lewis. George and Lewis, before you guys start going in on Luke for how on earth he got his last prediction correct, what did you guys make of semi-final 1?
Oh, it was superb, Jasmine. I think we witnessed certainly a clinic towards the end. Moritz Lerner with a huge send towards the end. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough, though, for him, but still, it was wonderful to see. I think looking at this round, my eyes are instantly drawn to Josh Rogers and Max Benecke, two of our first two winners in our first two finals. Really intrigued to see how that one plays out here at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, it was certainly quieter than expected, semi-final 1. I'm just disgusted that Luke was right, so you know, we'll move on from that very quickly. Can't be two in a row.
Ouch.
Go on, Luke. Can you do it again? Can you get another prediction correct? That's the real question.
All my chips are on red. Red line. Luke Bennett.
All right, well, without further ado, George and Lewis, take it away, boys.
Thank you, Jasmine. And we look ahead to our second semi-final, the second half of the deciding final. Wow, I'll tell you what, this driver, you could pick him out of a hat here, Lewis, at this point. Any of these drivers have the ability, have the tenacity, have the talent, the speed, whatever it may be, to get through into the final round. But I'm going to go back to what I said before. Rogers and Benecke, it's box office every time you see it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a good feeling about Mouse this round. Now you'd be like, well, yeah, of course, because they win the first. Yeah, Max Benecke did win the first ESLR1 round back in Katowice, obviously when we were racing. Yeah, fair enough. But Yuri Kasdorp has actually got through into the semi-finals this time. It's the first time he's got out of the quarterfinals, looking pretty strong. Is the Mouse team, and he got there by finishing second in quarterfinal 4. I think Mouse have got a good chance of getting those two into the final, where obviously we saw Moritz Lerner unable to do so in his semi-final. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we certainly will do. Yuri Kasdorp pulling off a sensation in the quarterfinal, taking victory in his own right, and a brilliant drive, to say the least, after the difficulties that he had in the first two rounds. It certainly seems that a few drivers perhaps are taking full advantage of the, should we say, the calmer environment of being in, if there can be one, in terms of the online stretch of things. Certainly going back to the Furia team, I think they've embraced that.
Yeah, I mean, there is like this whole thing of, yeah, when you're racing actually in person in Katowice, to kind of describe to you how the drivers went about it with getting comfortable in the rig. They only had 3 hours of practice to get comfortable with the rig. There's little bits outside, and then through races, kind of like thinking, oh, actually that pedal's a little bit too close, and you know, this kind of setting, I don't quite like it. Meanwhile, when you're at home and you've got the time to experiment and actually be like, oh, actually, you know, even if you're not racing on your rig, you know, that you're normally used to, if you're in Germany rather than you know, at home, and so they've got time to kind of like even make a rig that they're not used to work for them. And and it's the bit where you'll see some of these teams really work their way forward is the fact that they can adjust those tiny little things, which we're not good enough to think that would make a difference. To these kind of drivers, every little helps.
It does. It's those fine margins, isn't it, that can really stretch your performance that little bit extra. And we'll see if they can unlock that, of course, this time. Wasn't quite to be, though, in our previous round. Have they got a bounce back from what happened to Jeff Giassi?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of as being like a little bit harsh, as we'll see qualifying is underway. As being a bit harsh there, do they have to respond? Jeff Giassi only 10th place in that. Let's be real, Fury are actually getting into this and properly competing. That's amazing anyway, to get 3 cars into the semi-finals. Even if they get Veloso and Baptista knocked out of this semi-final and then they don't progress, it's still a huge gain for the Furia team, and that's the important bit. They've taken a victory in the quarterfinals, they are looking stronger, and in practice they were again looking very strong. Let's see what's going to happen in this qualifying session. The first lap will be set by round 1 winner Maximilian Benecke.
Yeah, round 1 final winner. And did it in great style as well. And we saw the raw emotion, of course, in the post-race interview. It just meant so much to him as he now rounds turn 8 at Dunlop Curve. He's going to make his way now through the Michael Schumacher S of turns 9 and, of course, turn 10 as well, before then peeling up through towards the Kumo Curve at turn 11 as well. Maximilian Benecke, of course, at the helm of the Audi. And certainly Audi, one of the cars you'd fancy to go well here at a track like at the Nürburgring. Of course, we've seen a few strengths and weaknesses come into certain cars. Obviously, we saw that in Katowice when we went racing at Spa and Hockenheim. Certain cars doing better than others. Obviously, tyre deg plays a factor. The BOP, of course, exceptionally good in terms of the competition, but at the same time, like anything, cars have their pluses and their faults, but still, as they now peel their way through, Maximilian Benecke looking to take helm of this Audi as he now sprints towards the final corner. Of course, the Coca-Cola curve is going to be teeing up a large run down the home straight and then in towards turn 1. What can Benecke land here in the early stages across the line? You can see Yuri Kazdorp in the bottom left as well, a 53.281, competitive, but not a 53 flat like we saw in the last session.
Yeah, 56.4 was what was set. That would be disappointing for Benecke, who in the practice session before this did a 52.980. Let's see what Josh Rogers could do as he heeled across the line. Really strong first sector from Rogers. 53.268, incredibly close, going a few, hundredths and a few thousandths ahead. Going to be enough. I think Yuri Toman's lap's looking even better.
Yeah, Yuri Toman looking good, 13 thousandths in between Rogers and Benecke. Toman also making his way up towards the line. Yuri Kazdorp coming through the final corner. Of course, the man mountain from Mouse, who's going to look to try and pounce, certainly at the top end. Certainly, if he can join Benecke up at the sharp end, that would certainly go in his favour. Was very good last Friday when we went racing in the quarterfinals, as he now makes his way up towards the line himself. Matt Backham currently sitting in 5th fastest. Of course, yet to nail a time on the board. He's now about to cross the line and nail his lap time to the table as well. Plenty of others looking to take their chances up at the top end. Graham Carroll, also the sole Mercedes AMG GT3 representative. A lot of pressure on his shoulders here, Lewis.
Yeah, I think we're having a bit of a timing because these times are being set. We're just not 100% sure as to what they are. I'm having a couple through on live time, but I'll let you know as soon as I see Yuri Toman, Yuri Kazdorp and Mac Backham, Graham Carroll their lap times. We'll see what Mr. will do across the line. The thing is, I'm looking at the sectors. First sector, second sector actually looks really good there from Baptista, and I can confirm Yuri Toman's lap time was a 1:53.234, so he has actually gone ahead of Rogers. I'll let you know times as they come through.
Yep, certainly Yuri Toman continuing a wonderful assault on this championship. We saw Wisniewski making his way through as well. More and more cars peeling their way around. Phil Denez now making his way up towards the line too for BMW VS competition. Of course, we saw them propel themselves to the top with Nils Nyox in our previous round. And then, of course, we've got Victor Veloso, Furia, who are looking to march forward. And, of course, we've already seen Baptista come across. What about Victor Veloso as he heads up towards the line? And we'll enlist the lap time. Sector 3 looked okay. Luke Bennett now coming up as well. 2 red line cars to finish things off here, Lewis.
Oh, really good second sector there from Bennett as well. See what his final one is as he crosses the line. First and second are pretty decent. I think we'll update you as soon as we know on the times. I've got to say, fastest, I've just seen it come through. We have had the fastest lap time set around the Nürburgring in a qualifying session by Felipe Baptista at a 53.016. That is absolutely the 6 drivers behind, the ones that I'm checking at the moment, they are just coming through the final few because it's more in sync with what you're seeing at home. It's our live timing slightly delayed. And that Nikodem Wisniewski, Yuri Toman, Mac Backham, Josh Rogers, Maximilian Benneker, Graham Carroll, and Phil Denez. But those 6 down to Carroll, all on 53.2s. Incredibly close between those 6.
You know, you could set a 53.2. It's considered fast, but it might still not necessarily grant you a top 6 or even a pole. You know, at the end of the day, you're going to be down in the bottom end. Just really hammers home the fact of how good these drivers really are, folks. So fast, and obviously, it's amazing how they could be so dialed in at a technical track like the Nürburgring. As we alluded to, plenty of different styles of corners: mid, slow, fast-speed corners, lots of heavy braking zones as well. Mainly, I would say that's very, very tight chicane, and We've of course seen many others get penalties, even and that could be a factor as well. But let's take a look at the starting grid for the start of this semi-final 2, folks. On top spot, it is Joshua Rogers, Maximilian Benneker alongside him, Yuri Toman in 3rd place with Yuri Kasdorp alongside him representing 4th, Mac Backham in behind, Graham Carroll, Baptista, Wisniewski, Phil Denez, Veloso, Rietveld and Bennett at the back. Bit of a different makeup there, Lewis?
That is not the grid. I was trying to be like, no, go get off of this, get off of this. No. That is not the grid. So we'll pull away from that. Let's say we had a bit of time with our graphics. I can actually tell 12 that we've got, and it's again the great example to go and download the Rennsport app because it's all on there.
Get the app, folks.
Felipe Baptista has got pole position 53.016. Luke Bennett at that 53.152. Then Wisniewski for Williams. Yuri Toman for R8G. Mac Backham and Josh Rogers, the 2 Porsche Commander cars, will be starting from 5th and 6th in the race. Maximilian Benneker only 7th outside of the top 6. That's a bit of a shock. Graham Carroll, Phil Denez, Vic Loso, Yuri Kasdorp and Jeffrey Rietveld. I believe Kasdorp and Rietveld had slowdowns on their lap, and that's what caused them to not get involved in the rear-firing session. That's what's going to make them start from those final 2 grid spots.
Yeah, very, very tricky indeed. I did allude to the penalties, of course, towards the end of that qualifying session. They can prove to be a factor. And we do have a race director on site as well, who will, of course, I'm sure, let us know should there be any major controversial moments in terms of live timing that we can obviously discuss. But that's the beauty of this competition. We saw it as well in rounds 1 and 2, stewarding very much at the forefront. Every move, every moment being scrutinized and assessed as well, making sure that fair play is right across this grid in this championship. At the end of the day, with the amount of money that's on the line here, Lewis, these are the type of elements you need to consider.
Yeah, I know it's like I said, it's an incredible amount of money, but the kind of that puts pressure on race control to make sure that call is correct. It puts pressure on the drivers to almost that extra little bit, which then puts even more pressure on race control because you know the drivers are going to be on the absolute limit. I was very surprised with how calm were in semi-final 1. Looking at this grid, looking at some of the names that are out of position with Benneker and Carroll, particularly those 2 being in 7th and 8th, I suspect this race is going to be a lot less calm.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, great chance here though for Furia. Obviously having Baptista up at the top. We saw him earlier on. He seems so dialed in, so determined. I mean, obviously looking ahead now, he has a big chance of taking a victory. Can he take it all away? Can he do exactly what Nils Niox did?
Potentially so. I mean, Niox was incredible in semi-final 1 for sure. Partially was that down to the car looking after it a little bit, and is that gonna help Baptista as well? Obviously driving the BMW M4 as well. We're going to see a couple of BMW M4 victories going into that race. I mean, Luke Bennett behind. I suspect Bennett is going to go on the attack early. I suspect he's going to try and send one down the inside. He has taken victories before, and he might be before another.
He could well do. Here come the lights, folks. 3 lights, 4 lights. And it's pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 go. Immediately off the line there, Josh Rogers getting a good start, but so does Max Benneker further down as well. But here's the leaders, Felipe Baptista heading in towards turn 1. Further down then, Luke Bennett trying to make his way through, manages to get himself up into the lead of the race as well. Further down then, Wisniewski trying to get into the mix too, alongside him Yuri Toman, who of course has been the star of the show here at the R1 Championship. Nose to tail, side by side, heading through Mercedes Arena Curve. curve, but Toman now with the tiger line as the exit out of turn 3.
Yeah, it's on the attack. You can see him there on the inside, of course, the Porsche Commander duo behind. Just watching this all unfold. Yuri Toman sending it around the outside of Valley, now into 4th. That was a proper send down the outside from Nikodem Wisniewski. The top 2 clearing, said Luke Bennett on the attack from the early stages, and he is trying to check out immediately. The top 2, though, holding a very solid position as now Maximilian Benneker in the attack.
Yeah, he certainly is. He has to make a charge, certainly at this point, obviously starting from where he did in the midpoint of this pack. You can see there the Porsches literally primed together at this point as well. Obviously Joshua Rogers making up that contingent as well. Of course, now we're watching them make their way through the next sector. There you can see him behind as well, the mouse car of Beneke, just literally trying to prime himself ready for an attack himself. There is the Team Redline car as well, its way through. Jeffrey Rietveld, who of course would have probably wanted a little bit more out of qualifying. Victor Veloso also with him as well, as now they peel through the first sector. Luke Bennett, should I say, leading this contingent of cars up at the sharp end. Baptista in 2nd place, Wisniewski in 3rd. Yuri Toman, who's still very much in the mix as well. There's the 2 Porsche cars still strapped together. And of course being Mac Backham and Joshua Rogers as they now make their way down the straight to commence lap 2 here in this race.
Yeah, there's obviously been a significant drive behind. As you can see, there's a large group, 0.6 seconds. Jeffrey Rietveld, Phil Denez and Victor Veloso off the rear end of Yuri Kasdorp. We can understand why, by the way, you said Jeffrey Rietveld, because that's the position we'd expect him to be in, at the front and checking out. He is, though, returning to the pit lane after some very early dramas in the race. So, unfortunately, for Rietveld, Denez and Veloso, those 3 will definitely not be going any further in this competition. Be between the 9 ahead. Bennett, like you say, Baptista in 2nd. Wisniewski, Toman, Backham and Rogers are the 6 at the moment that are in position. Got to say, Mac Back, super effort to have out-qualified Josh Rogers. Again, we know how Josh is on this, in sim racing, let's just say that. I was going to say on the platform, but no, in sim racing, Mac going on the attack.
Yeah, I mean, to have 2 Porsche cars as well heading into the final, that's not a bad place to be heading into this semi-final. Of course, we got see there Maximilian Beneke, who I'm sure will not want to remain in 7th place. We know how tenacious he can be. I'll tell you what, how about a scrap between our 2 final winners as well? That could be mouth-watering at a prospect, that's for sure. Matt Backham obviously has got to play his part as well. Very similar format really to where RHG sat in our previous race. Obviously currently though both Porsches will be going through to the final. So now we're seeing the cars now make their way up the hill towards the right now. Still leading the way Luke Bennett, Baptista in behind him too. Wisniewski with a very strong race as well. Williams coming off the back of a very successful quarter-final. We just saw there as well the mouse car. There's Yuri Kasdorp, but further up Graham Carroll in front of him as well. Beneke searching all over Joshua Rogers as well. A lot of pressure on Graham Carroll. He does not want to remain here too long, otherwise that's Mercedes out of, well, basically out of this round altogether.
Yeah, and of course we'll be catching up with James Bolban after this. I think we want to hear a happy James Bolban, and that would be if Graham Carroll can actually move his way up a couple of positions and inside that top 6. Almost a little bit of inter-team fighting there between Josh Rogers and Mac Backham. They are in 5th and 6th position. That in 7th is Maximilian Benneker being the first driver to get knocked out. Then Graham Carroll and Yuri Kasdorp, the 9 cars that are effective in this race. Because again, if you've only just turned on, Phil Denez, Victor Veloso and Jeffrey Rietveld having those early issues. We will get the timing tower to you as soon as possible, don't you worry. But obviously, again, we're in alpha. We're brand new, so as you say that, boom, it pops up. We're in alpha, everything's very new, so sometimes we do have those problems that we saw in qualifying. Again, time and time again, the fact that we're this early in development and the sim is looking this good, is running this well. I mean, yeah, I think there are a little problem. You know what I'm saying?
You take the positives here at this point, and certainly now we have a timing tower. I tell you what, you're magic, Lewis McGlade. As now we're seeing them make their way through this next section. Luke Bennett leading the charge, Baptista in 2nd, Wisniewski, as you can see, in 3rd. All the cars within a second, all the way down towards Phil Denez, who's now 4.4 seconds off Yuri Kasdorp. Cars now rounded the next right-hander. Just a stark reminder that those on the left-hand side of the timing tower that are green, they're the ones that are going through to the final later on tonight. The others, unfortunately, will not be. And as it stands right now, Mouse could well be saying goodbye to 2 of their drivers.
Yeah, and again, this is the clap. Is it the commentator's curse? I still don't believe in the commentator's curse, and I know Dane Baird.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
They've made a big tweet apparently about how I'm the only one that says the commentator's curse doesn't exist, and it still doesn't. But obviously, I said that Mouse are going to go quite well in this, and it doesn't look like that might be the case. I think it doesn't exist. Sorry, mate. Oh
well,
no! Does that mean that Luke's going to be right again? Big send down the inside.
Yeah, Maximilian Benecke going for it here, and he might have it as well. Contact as they head out of turn 1 of the Castrol S. Inside line now, defending Joshua Rogers. These two juggernauts for the first 2 rounds here in this championship. Benecke with an ultimate round, just hanging it around the outside to try and gain some sort of traction against Joshua Rogers. So tight as they exit through turn 3. They still remain together. Certainly the Audi trying to get the upper hand, but tenacious defending from Joshua Rogers to hold on to that final qualification spot.
Yeah, wow, that was big, and like you said, what it's actually done is it's dragged Rogers off the back of Mac Backham, and meant that whilst there was potentially 2-3 positions up for grabs for some of these behind, it's now become just the one as Maximilian looks to the inside. A bit of a slide there through the mid part of Dunlop as Josh Rogers kicked it into overdrive on the exit of the corner, and might well have just overheated the rear tyres a touch there. We were seeing this in the quarterfinals. I jumped in for a couple of races, or at least a race on the Racesport broadcast, and barged my way in there, elbows out and all that lot. You know what I can be like. And it was one of those notes from the Porsche. They do lean on their tyres quite a bit, particularly rear end. That does seem to be the case for Josh Rogers. Will he come back on strong towards the end of this race? He's going to hope so, because if he doesn't, well, he's going to be a sitting duck for the trio behind.
Well, we did see some parallels, certainly in the quarterfinals, between that of what we saw at Spa to what we saw here at the Nürburgring. So, obviously, you do have to wonder whether Benecke, perhaps applying that little bit of intuition, maybe just forcing Rogers to use some of those tyres, I think, a little more than what he may have planned to. Wisniewski now being roamed up on by Yuri Toman, as well as they make their way down the straight. And Toman, who has been a sensation since the start of this championship when we went racing at Katowice, goes side by side now with Wisniewski in towards turn 1. The RAG car, though, with the inside line, the Tiger line, heading out of turn 1 of the Castrol S, and he's now in the top 3, 1.5 seconds away from Felipe Baptista, but currently as it stands, he's going through to the final.
Yeah, I mean, how good is Yuri in French sport? I mean, he's a quality driver. We said it before. When it comes to a lot of the big drivers that are taking part in the ESL, there are a few underdogs that have moved their way forward. Got to say, Felipe Baptista is definitely one of those, at least in this race. Yuri Toman was one of those that stood out to most back at Katowice, and it is showing once again on the online rounds that he still has that pace, he still has that drive, he still has that focus. And I'll still not forget that those final couple of laps at Spa in the ESL-R1, the first round that we did, I won't forget them from Yuri Toman, because wow, did he put the pressure on Maximilian Benecke, closing up again, getting faster and faster and faster as the race was going on. Absolutely breathtaking stuff. Did have a little bit of a race leader in Bennett and Baptista there, at 1.4 seconds clear of Toman and Wisniewski. And once again, I think Rogers has been able to close back in and make Mac back.
Yeah, absolutely right indeed. Backham now sits currently 7.5 tenths outside of Wisniewski. Rogers currently sits 4 tenths behind him now, so has closed the gap. And the gap is smaller between Rogers and Backham than Benecke to Rogers. So Benecke now needs to try and get himself recomposed, perhaps launch another assault against Rogers later on. Again, I think we're going to have a similar scenario, final few laps here in this race. I'm sure we'll see them come together. Luke Bennett, though, has not been budged off the top spot, but have a look at Baptista in behind as well, who's looking to try and get himself into the slipstream of the BMW in front of him. 2 BMWs sharing the top 2 places with an Audi just in behind as well. There's Baptista, who now once again goes searching in the mirrors. I mean, I know that they've already secured qualification now, but you can't get away from that, just that inner mentality of winning races, and certainly Bennett is going to want to try and hold on to this one. A bit of a Jekyll and Hyde, really, for Team Redline at this point, because obviously you have Luke Bennett at the top, but you also have Jeffrey Rietveld at the bottom, and Rietveld was very much one of the shining lights in the first 2 rounds as well.
I mean, I've got to say, for Bennett, to be fair for any of these, especially when you're in this position that Baptista and Bennett are in, right? They're 1.5 seconds clear of those behind. They can kind of fight a little bit amongst themselves, and it's fun. And what it does, it just gives you that extra little bit of confidence going into into the. I was actually saying this on Friday. It's kind of one of those things like trying to get out of your system as a racing driver is the position. This is a good position. I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to sit. Yeah, I'm going to be. I'm kind of bored. Joe, do you know what? I'm going to go for it. No, what? I mean, what have I got to lose? And then it's like, okay, and then you're knocked out because you've gone for a move that you shouldn't have gone for, and suddenly it's been too deep, and you've been fine. It's sometimes just how it goes. To kind of tell yourself that you're not going to race at all. You're just going to sit here for 15 minutes and accept your way into the final. Whilst that seems wise, because there's no benefit for going for the race win, you're still a racing driver, and it's still a race, and you want to win the race. You know what I mean? Especially for Baptista and Fury wanting to get another win for the, to mean that this round really is one where Fury are moving their way forward.
Yeah, absolutely right. We just saw Maximilian Benecke, who must be putting his foot down slightly because he ran just ever so slightly wide on the exit of the hairpin there. We're just seeing again Felipe Baptista again right on the rear of Luke Bennett now. Does he opt to go for the lead of the race? You just see there going slightly defensive, Luke Bennett just cutting into the inside as Baptista now makes his way down through towards turn 1. We got some lovely overhead views here of the cars now making their way towards the Castrol S inside line. You see there almost a nudge in the back there between the two BMWs now as Baptista now makes his way around the Mercedes arena curve, chasing after Luke Bennett as now they peel through turn 3, out of turn 4, the Kumo curve, well, out of turn 4 and towards turn 5, which then lead him in towards the middle sector. There's Baptista, still looking ever-present. Fury, I think, will look on in delight with this performance so far from Baptista, but perhaps not so much with Veloso down in 11th. Again, a Jekyll and Hyde performance. You've got two of the cars up at the top end, also sharing the bottom end of things as well in this classification too. Look at Toman, also there in the mix as well. Benecke now has managed to bring the gap closer again. Remember, he was 8 tenths away. It's now been reduced by 3 tenths, and it's now closing up even more so as he now hits the 4.5 tenths mark as well. Benecke on a charge.
Yeah, a couple of battles in here because, of course, like you say, Benecke closing in on that all-important 6th position, as well as Yuri Toman closing in on Felipe Baptista and Luke Bennett. I've got to say as well, with Yuri Toman and the RHG team, it won't be James Bolbert that we're catching up with, by the way, after this race. It'll actually be Marcel Chit we'll have a good, or they'll have a good chat with. We won't. We'll leave that to Jasmine and Luke because, well, let's be honest, they're a bit more interesting to talk to. Her poor old Marcel Chinchik, who, like I say, Mr. Consistent, unfortunately less so. We'll have to put that one on the back burner for a round as we look back up towards Maximilian Benecke. Josh Rogers ahead. My fear for the Porsche Coanda team is Rogers is going to be saying like, oh, the person that might decide this is actually Mac Backham at the front of this, who might go a little bit slow at the wrong place. And suddenly Rogers has to slow down, and guess who's ready to pounce? It's Benecke.
It is Benecke on a charge now. You just see that going defensive again. Josh Rogers is cutting into that inside. I tell you what, Bennett doing exactly the same as well, only this time this battle is for the lead of the race as now they work their way out of turn 1 now. Toman as well getting himself into the mix too. He's managed to close the gap quite convincingly as well. So the 3 cars at the front now being joined together. Benecke now working hard to try and envelop that gap between him and Rogers too. Very nearly breaking into that 4 tenths of a second mark as we now hurtle around on the final lap of this race at the Nürburgring. The second semi-final, the top 6 will go through to the final. The last spot now being between that of Josh Rogers and Maximilian Benecke. And look at this as well, Nikodem Wisniewski now proving to be a cork in the bottle. Could that become a bit of a deciding factor in what happens towards the end of this race as they now peel through out to these very tight, twisty corners of the Nürburgring? Where do you think it's going here, Lewis?
I don't know. I just don't know. Like you say, it's building up to a bit of a crescendo. Maximilian Benecke. Let's go. I said Mac Backham then, but I was really struggling there. Maximilian Benecke is like he's going to be the first one to not get through. And as a previous winner in this competition, that's going to burn even more. So he'll be determined to find his way past yet another winner in the form of Josh Rogers. But at the moment, toward the front, Bennett Baptista. Look at Yuri Toman, by the way. How good is his long run pace or longer run? He comes on so strong towards the end. Counter to what's happening with Wisniewski, I think you're absolutely right. There could be some tyre struggles for the Mercedes late in the race, but it doesn't seem as though anything's going to switch in 3.
No, not at all. Luke Bennett is going to peel out, though, of the Very, very tight chicane indeed, and now round the Coca-Cola curve at turn 16. Red line will look on with delight as now Baptista chases him round that final bend, but Luke Bennett is going to take victory here in the second semi-final here at the Nürburgring. Baptista comes home in second for Furia, Yuri Toman a stellar drive in third. Wisniewski will bring Williams into the final as well. Fourth place he's finishing, and Mac Backham and Josh Rogers celebrate a Porsche Coanda qualification as well. But big shock, no Maximilian Benecke in the final there, Lewis.
I know, absolute madness. Again, another heavy hitter knocked out. The thing is, I'm saying this, but at this kind of level, should we be shocked that heavy hitters are getting knocked out in this competition, whether it's at the quarterfinals, whether it's at the semis? Because let's be honest, every time we go onto there are 12 drivers, and all 12 of them can really qualify. All 12 of them can find their way through, maybe with a couple of exceptions. We're not going to point any fingers around, all right? Realistically, especially in the semi-finals, there are going to be big casualties. Maximilian Benecke is Mouse, certainly one of them. I don't know what positives they can take from this, but it seems as though they're getting heavily hit.
Yeah, absolutely right indeed. It was a very, very interesting race. Certainly Kasdorp, it wasn't the race he perhaps would have hoped for. Obviously the likes of Benecke as well certainly was a sore spot for them towards the end. Porsche Coanda though, I mean, we talk about the Porsche performance here around a circuit such as this. It hasn't exactly been the track for that car. But Porsche Coanda, I suppose they'll revel in the fact that they've got both their cars into the next round again.
I mean, I've heard, the thing is with Porsche, this is actually typical of most platforms, generally. The Porsche is kind of one that almost has like the most potential pace, and this is not me saying that like Porsche Coanda are the ones, maybe they're struggling with the car, but of course they're not. But the thing is with the Porsche is that if you have the right driver behind it at the right time, even though everyone else is struggling with it, it's just...
I've got to stop you there. Got to stop you there, Lewis. We have some breaking news here. We've got an interview with Luke Bennett here with Yasmin and, of course, Luke Crane as well.
Yes, we are back once again. Congratulations are in order to you, Luke. No, not you, Luke Crane. It is Luke Bennett. Luke, I need to ask you, who do you think your biggest competition is going to be now that you're heading into the finals? I'm curious to know.
Well, looking at the results from both races, I'm not actually too sure, to be honest. The Brazilian team Furia look unbelievably strong. You know, it's not something we expected. But, you know, you always have to watch out for people like Porsche Coanda who are, you know, always going to be fast. But I would say for the most part it would be the Furia team, which is not who I would have expected.
Well, well done, mate. Has a really good performance. First of all, that is some couch in the background as well with the zebra theme. What made you make the move in turn one? Like, it was a pretty high-risk move considering you were in P2, but what made you decide to actually go for it?
Yeah, well, I got a very good start. I was already alongside him, and then we had a bit of contacts on the straight, which I wasn't too sure why he did that, but you know, he did. I was alongside into turn one on the inside, and you know, I always think if I was going to break early in turn one, someone's going to come catapulting in behind at Nürburgring. But you know, I made the move stick, and luckily held P1 from there.
And obviously, you folks have all kind of transitioned from competing at LAN to now playing online. How has the transition been for you? Obviously, you performed exceptionally well, but do you feel like that might have been because you are in your home environment, you're feeling a little bit more comfortable?
I wouldn't say so. I quite enjoy a LAN event, to be honest. You know, I like the unknowns that are there. But, you know, I think when everyone's at home, everyone's comfortable, and it's much harder. But I wouldn't say it's really given me advantage being at home. I just feel like I've come more prepared into this round.
How about you, Luke? Do you have any final question?
Yeah, well, to be fair, you kind of, it was a mixed bag, wasn't it, in Poland? You had one good day and you had one bad day. Do you think it was really important for you to have that? It's almost like a kick in the nuts, wasn't it? It's like, oh, do you know what? You know, I need to perform better. Do you think that's had a massive bearing on you doing so well because you're so consistent this round three?
Yeah, no, Katowice didn't go so well. Yeah, day one wasn't too bad. I got a bit unfortunate in the final, but you know, these things happen. And day two at Hockenheim, I was in a shunt and there was no way of returning. Here, everything seems to have gone well. You know, I'm consistent. I'm happy with my quali laps. I feel like I'm somewhat fast in the race, but I wouldn't say I have any more advantage here than I did at Katowice.
Well, wonderful stuff. Congratulations to yourself once again. Luke,
Thank you.
other Luke, I'm curious to go through some highlights from the race. Do you fancy taking me through it?
Yeah, let's have a little look, shall we, at what we just watched there. It was an incredible start from Bennett. Again, he had a little bit of contact as we come down in towards turn number 1, but it was just a case of, I'm late on the brakes here, I'm going to make this move stick through the inside, and there's a little bit of argy-bargy there on the exit of the corner, but he left the perfect amount of room for the Furia driver to indeed get back involved or get back on track. But look at this, already with a 2-car length advantage, heading down towards turn number 3, let the rest of the field there battle it out and let him drive away effectively. There's the 2 Coanda drivers battling for what will be 5th position, and then you see Maximilian Benneker give it a go. I called him Maximin earlier on, no idea how that happened, but you know, here we are. As we come up then towards turn number 2, I make driver names up sometimes, I get bored, it is what it is. But yeah, Benneker tried his absolute hardest here to try and get a job done. The Coanda driver not really letting it go down. As you can see, still side by side, bit of touching, almost loses the Porsche there. Did Josh Rogers, but Josh Rogers does hold firm. And then we see Wisniewski battling here as well. This is for what will be P4 in the end. Yuri Toman managing to get back up into P3, but then showed some serious pace once he had some clear track. But it was Bennett that did come across the line. It was Bennett that did take victory. And yeah, I can't believe it. I'm 2 for 2 in predictions.
How do you do it? Actual question though, like how do you do it?
Just like a dart, close your eyes, throw it, just guess.
No, because
I'm no expert, I have no idea.
You were doing the whole, yeah, exactly. At the start, you were doing the whole like quote unquote expert, and now I'm just sat here. I'm like, man, our casters could really do their research on you. Just pick your brains. Just ask you for your predictions ahead of time. What do you think?
The power of the shirt. Simple as that. Power of the shirt.
All right, well, I'm curious to take a look at some of our results and things like that. Obviously, Felipe Batista, first finals placement for himself and the entire team as well, so props are in order.
Yeah, look, I said Furia from the start of today. They are the team really to give the flowers to, because they didn't look good in Poland. I think they'd be the first to admit it. Maybe the emotion of the event sort of took over, but they have come to round 3 and they are ready to party. And I think Batista had the car underneath him to probably go for the lead there. And psychologically, I think he probably should have done, but he didn't. Bennett did take the victory. Yuri Toman, watch out for Yuri Toman. In the quarterfinals, he managed to catch up to the front 2 right at the death. And again, you could have covered the front 3 from his quarterfinal with a loincloth. They were that close, and he managed to catch up to them again. He's one driver that just seems to be able to get faster as the race. He's someone who's going to be a little bit gutted that it's gone from 20 minutes down to 15. Wisniewski under the radar. Williams have got 2 cars going through to our final. Mac Backham did not have a good Poland, did not have a good round 1 and round 2 when he's in the final today. Josh Rogers is also there, but this means that actually Yuri Toman and Josh Rogers are the only 2 drivers now that have managed to make it all the way through to our finals. So yeah, very interesting scenario. Obviously, of course, Kevin Ellis Jr. So there's 3 of them, but only 3 drivers now have managed to make it to every single race. Max Benneker, who won round 1, unfortunately will not be making it through. So that should give Josh Rogers an opportunity to extend his championship lead.
Well, I'm certainly excited to see how our finals are going to unfold. But before we do that, a little bit of a public service announcement, as it were. James Baldwin is not going to be joining us on broadcast, unfortunately. I know, right? Like,
I don't know what the reason is, by the way.
Hair flicks. I don't know what the reason is either, so we could be completely flaming right now. But I'd like to kind of welcome to the broadcast right now. We have Marcel Chinchik. So firstly, Marcel, nice to meet you. How are you doing, first and foremost?
Yeah, hello. Nice to meet you also. Yeah, like, I feel a bit sad as I couldn't make it to the final, but yeah, I'm gonna cheer for my 2 teammates who made it.
Well, before
obviously,
we
it's
get stuck into... Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry for cutting you off there. Obviously, it's not gone perfectly well this weekend for you, Marcel, but let's celebrate rounds 1 and rounds 2, shall we? The only driver to hit a podium in every single race. Obviously, it's a new title. You've come into it and you've just hit the ground running. What's the secret?
Yeah, lots of practice, of course, like in any other sim. But yeah, since the beginning, I think the sim is fitting for us, for the whole team. So yeah, with enough amount of practice, it's a good combination.
And Marcel, I'm presuming you were kind of keeping your eye on all of the sort of races we've had thus far. Who do you think, sort of outside of your team, outside of your friendship group, as it were, who do you think has the most potential out of all of our drivers? Because obviously there's a lot of drivers to pick from as well.
Yeah, I think everyone has the potential for sure. It depends like mostly on the quali, like every time that how we can handle the pressure. So this time for me it was more pressure than I was expecting, and I just made mistakes through my lap, and yeah, no, that was the reason why I couldn't make it most likely.
Luke, do you want to go next? I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, well, what's the process? You know, across the round, you've got obviously the qualifying process for the quarterfinal, then you head to the semi-final and the final. Talk us through your process and how you get yourself ready for that.
Oh yeah, like you mean like actually before the quali, or like how we preparing for the actual round?
Give us all the secrets, Marcel. Come on, tell us.
All the secrets.
Do you wear clothes?
Yeah, this time with a lot of good secrets I can tell, but yeah, like mostly every day we practice, of course, for the actual round, and like that's how it should be done, I guess, in my opinion. More hours, like more chance for success. But yeah, before the quali, I decided not to drive a lot this time, but maybe I should have done because I didn't do that good job this time on the quali. So next time I think I'm gonna drive actually a bit more.
All right, well, I kind of want to ask you about one driver in particular. What do you make of Nils Nyhox on the side of BMWM?
Yeah, what can I say? He looks very strong. Yesterday I was driving behind him. Sorry, on Friday actually I was driving behind him, and I saw he had better pace than Jeff. It was front of him. So I saw that he has some more extra, and this time in the semi-final he showed it. So a very strong driver, and I think he has overall chance for the World Championship.
All right, very wonderful stuff. Go ahead, Luke.
In terms of lap times there, Marcel, are we potentially going to see a 52? Is there anyone out there that can give us a 52 in the final?
Yeah, there will be, for sure. I'm pretty sure that is going to be 52.
I like the amount of kind of conviction and confidence that's behind that one as well. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Marcel. I'm curious on that topic to hear and find out a little bit more on the side of BMW M, and in particular, Nils Nyhox.
My sim racing journey really started with Need for Speed and ESL. So it's really interesting to, 20 years later, come back to ESL again, that they're back in the game of sim racing. I started when I was 8, around that somewhere in the 90s, with what you'd hardly call sim racing these days, but it was the best at the time. To have a long career in sim racing, I think first you need to really stay hungry. You need to have that will to win, else there's no chance you'll put the effort and time into it that it just needs, no matter the talent. I think right now what motivates me to still do this is that I can see I still have the capacity to be at the front, and now it's about proving I can actually keep up with those young generation, very talented sim racers, and still don't be second to them, but be on the same level still. And yeah, I've been on site, I've raced in front of audience already, so I hope that some people will just have some what we call lamb fever, which I hopefully don't. As for mentoring in the team, I think they're all already professional enough to know their own ways, how to get going. But yeah, maybe I can just infect my teammates a bit with a passion that's still there, and they can also see a long career ahead of them.
Infecting your teammates with that passion. Luke, talk to me a little bit about the kind of the behind the scenes for a lot of these drivers in terms of mentoring. How far and to what extent is there actually mentoring going on behind the scenes?
It's about keeping you cool, I guess, is probably the best way, but you've got to factor in that all 4 drivers will be practicing with each other, and if they find something particular in a sector within the physics of a car, they're going to share it with their teammates. Like, if you're a bad teammate and you're only looking out for yourself, of course you could keep that information, but ultimately you will get found out at some point, because the drivers will be looking at VODs of each other at the same time. So to be a good teammate, you need to make sure that you're giving absolutely every part of information. But it's quite a unique system, sim racing, because for the first part of your career, if you're a pro driver, you're kind of doing things on your own. You've not been spotted yet. You've not in a team. Like, no one just spawns in and goes, right, I'm racing for a team now. Like, so you're used to just your own dynamic and used to just finding time yourself. And then when you go into a team, especially with like-minded people, it becomes easier. But then obviously you couple it in with the fact that then you go up against better people. That's where it becomes more difficult to compete and definitely be consistent time in, time out. But yeah, Nils we give him a lot of stick for being the older head, but it's paying off dividends right now, right? 38 years old, and arguably, okay, Baptista's put the fastest lap in now we've seen, but consistency-wise, Nils Nayox is pretty much the driver to beat.
So basically, what I'm gathering from everything you've just told me is that in order for me to be as good as a lot of our drivers, I just need to team up with people. What do you think, Luke? You can do it?
Yeah, not quite, unfortunately. It's not quite how it works. I've raced alongside and practiced alongside some very quick drivers, and it's not quite worked out for me as of yet. So I can guarantee you that's not really the path. You either got it or you haven't. You kind of need to be pretty good in the first place. There's certain aspects you can learn, but very similarly to being a football player, like you either can play football to a good level or you can't. The extras is coaching, and the extras is being able to learn how to be consistent and good. But yeah, you need to have the talent there in the first place. Maybe you do. Who knows, actually? You've never really
I was going to say.
Maybe you are going to be here next season too. Who knows?
Who knows? One could only hope. But talk to me a little bit more about heading into finals. Obviously, we've established that you are the all-seeing eye for especially when it comes to predictions. So talk to me a little bit more about your prediction for this finals.
Oh, you actually want a prediction this time? You're not giving me a little bit more time to think about it?
I actually want a prediction.
Everyone's going to be
give me some drivers you're going to be keeping an eye on.
I think the obvious three are Nils Nayox. I think you've got to be looking at Baptista because of his fastest lap time we've seen all weekend, and Bennett because of his consistency. I will throw Jiri Toman out there. I just don't think the races are long enough, and I don't think that Audi's quite capable of hitting the lap times that the BMW can in terms of qualifying, and qualifying has been key. So I can't see a winner outside of those front three. I will say one thing. Everybody's going to be a little bit more relaxed in the final. Believe it or not, the way this format works, you need to be in the top 24 to make it to our Masters at the Rennsport Summit in May for the final 2 rounds. So just getting in the top 24, is realistically what you're looking to do. And then you can focus on becoming the champion. So get into a final, you're in the top 12. If you do that every single week, you're guaranteed to get yourself to Munich. So that is why I believe it's going to be a little bit more relaxed. But on the flip side, there are drivers such as Josh Rogers who have a massive opportunity to open up a huge gap because some of his rivals are just not even in the final.
How about on the Furia side of things? Do you think maybe crumbling under the pressure might be an element that kind of factors into this finals race?
Baptista managed to put in the fastest lap time we've seen in the semi-finals, so there was no crumbling under pressure, and there's no more pressure than a one-shot qualifying session. It's quite rare to see that. Even with iRacing championships, you get 2 laps, sometimes 4 laps, but here it's just one shot. If you mess up, you're in trouble. Right? You start at the back, and overtaking has not been our friend today. I've seen a lot of comments in the chat. This is pretty much Nürburgring, to be honest. Nürburgring is quite renowned for that. Drivers haven't found a way to make those overtakes, so the skill is making sure you get that lap time. Can Baptista do it again? That's the question. Seems like it was a shock for Bennett. It seems like Nils kind of understood that they were going to be quick. Sorry, Marcel understood that they were going to be kind of quick as of yesterday. So can they perform one more time? I know that there's a whole nation. Brazil are absolutely buzzing right now. They potentially could have a race winner when in Poland it didn't even look like they were going to get close.
Well, I'm certainly excited to see whether or not that's going to be a possibility in the slightest. I would love to see a top 3 placement. I would love to see the celebration and the passion and just how much it means to the drivers on side of Furia, ultimately. But talking a little bit more about the drivers we have competing in our finals here today, is there anybody that you're kind of sticks out like a sore thumb and you're like, I really don't think they're going to give us a promising performance whatsoever?
No. So I can't say that. Do you know what? Kevin gave me a little bit of stick, Kevin Ellis Jr. actually, because I said that I didn't think he was going to quite make it through the top 6, and then he just absolutely blitzed qualifying, and then he managed to get himself in a top 3 position. So he really overperformed, finishing his second in the semi-final. So maybe he can give us a positive. But there's no one out there I'm going to turn around and say, oh, I'm expecting a negative race from them, because these are genuinely the best in the world. It is as simple as that.
Well, the best of the best, and you did mention Kevin Ellis, so I think there's no better way for us to wrap things up over here than to get to know him a little bit better.
With the ESL coming on board, it was a massive opportunity for sim racing to finally be on the world stage. I'm at the stage of my career now where it's make or break, and I was willing to take the risk and throw myself out there. Obviously, living together for a start off is a huge thing. It just boosts morale. It makes it easier to get up and go for practice. It's always motivating when you see a teammate getting up and going to go and practice. It's like, right, I need to kind of get off my backside and go and do the same. It's a lot easier to compare data. You can just look at the rig next to you if you're struggling with something, and you can pick it up a lot easier. I like to think I can win ESL R1, but obviously I think I've still got a little ways to go in terms of just a few small tweaks to make to my driving, as it's a complete adjustment for me to what I'm used to. I've been in my own little corner for sort of 5 to 6 years, got really good at what I was doing there, but I've had to sort of strip my driving style down and start again. So I'd like to think I'll be up there fighting for the title, but there will be a little bit of work I think still to do.
Well, wonderful stuff. Luke, did I hear you correctly a little bit earlier? You said he gave you a little bit of flack? Did I mishear that?
Yeah. I kind of posted my prediction, but bear in mind this was Saturday after I'd done the broadcast on Friday, so I'd had a few beers on board. And I also got some stick about Yuri Toman, but I just completely forgot he was in the list. So it's a bit like, yeah, let's not take what I said on Saturday with any kind of seriousness. But the Audi just doesn't look as quick as the BMW, and with qualifying being so key, it was very difficult to see outside of that. And again, I'm going to stick by it. There's 3 drivers capable of hitting a 53.1, maybe even a little bit below that. Well, no, definitely a little bit below that. We've seen those 3 drivers hit a 53.0, and we haven't seen that from an Audi. So I find it very difficult to believe he can mix it and win this race. But again, any one of these 12 could come out there and surprise us. They are the best. It really is quite as simple as that. And, when pressure pressure creates diamonds. So can we have a diamond opportunity for someone like Kevin Ellis Jr.? I doubt it, but you never know.
That was a beautiful analogy. Chef's kiss for you for that one, honestly. But talking a little bit more about the teams in particular, obviously it goes without saying that RHG heading into today had a huge target on their back. 5 finals placements before today alone. Do you feel like this target on their back is going to be lasting for quite a while, or not so much? Do you think everybody else is going to pick up the momentum a little bit?
If you can guarantee 3 drivers through to the semi-finals every single round, you're in the team championship. You're going to have a really good time in terms of making it, as our champions. Mals have fallen short today. That they're right up there with them. Coanda only had 2 drivers making it through to our semi-finals as well. So Redline have been faltering a little bit. You expect them to be the top dogs. So RHG have still been able to maintain those semi-finalists. I don't think it's necessarily about making sure you get drivers into the final. Obviously that helps, but yeah, RHG for me is still that team to beat.
Do you feel like they're going to be top of the leaderboards at the very end of... we have 8 rounds to go. We have 8 rounds in total.
Yeah, they'll definitely be on the horn about BOP, as every team is after each round. So they'll probably be discussing about that. But the car does look lightning in a straight line still. So maybe at a track like Spa, they'll have a bit more of a chance once again, because there's more chance of overtaking. And even at Hockenheimring as well, with that long run down towards the hairpin in sector number 1. But yeah, in terms of talent on show, Yuri Toman has absolutely surprised me, as well as Marcel Shinchik. Those 2 have been absolutely incredible. And then you couple in someone like Erhan Yayovsky, who has been around for such a long time. That lad has got so much talent. It's absolutely ridiculous. All 4 of those drivers could go out there and win a round at any point. RHG, for me, I've always said that they're kind of the nearly team of sim racing. We've always had Redline. You always have Apex Racing Team or Coanda that tend to go out there and win the big events. I think RHG are about to announce themselves, and there's a big opportunity here for them to finally get a huge championship, and maybe, arguably, the biggest championship we've ever seen.
Well, for the folks at home, if you're not entirely familiar with the side of RHG, don't worry, I got your back. Let's find out a little bit more about them.
Or maybe you.
Maybe I would be.
Who knows?
No.
Maybe all of us can.
Yeah.
Likely me. As most aggressive. Same.
It was the latest to come down, but now to the...
That was like a one-time thing.
That's interesting.
I'm because he's gonna steal the trophy, so.
My tires are the hottest after a stint, so yeah, I need to work on that maybe still.
Yuri.
I think he has always the quality.
He was the best. Like in tire preservation from all of us.
The time management is quite like natural in this game.
I could ban it.
I think I like Marcel.
Yeah, and don't with me. Yeah.
He's keeping the pace for when it matters.
Yeah.
And chilling when it doesn't matter.
Nicolauda said if it's not going in a hurry and not getting pace, no need to go fast. I don't think we have any of that with our car. We only have oversteer with our Audi.
Yeah. Him as well.
Again, to compensate for speed, so I do other stuff. Data is cool.
We have like a sheet with all the times and everything, and he's always updating like rankings of average times.
I love the fact that there was arguing / a little bit of a back and forth debate as to who would be most likely to in those scenarios. So Luke, my question to you is, before I introduce them once again, George and Lewis, out of George and Lewis and you, who'd be most likely to drive like a granny?
Oh god, that's a tough. I've raced Lewis quite a lot, and he's pretty quick. So I'm gonna have to say George because I've watched him in an F4, and it's interesting to say the very least.
I'm wondering whether or not George has something to say about that. George and Lewis, are you ready to join us over here on the broadcast? Go on, George. Fighting talk.
Yeah, that's out of order, that is, Luke Crane. I got to say, I think you could do a lot better than that. But no, fair play. No, I've never driven against any of you. But no, to be fair, I've had my wins. I had my win in F3 not so long ago and stuff like that. So, but there's a reason why I'm carrying the microphone these days. So, you know.
Same.
All right, so George and Lewis,
Yeah,
the
same.
two of you, right? Who do you think would be most likely to drive a granny from each of your perspectives? Lewis, I'll ask you first.
Yeah, no. Again, I've driven against Luke not that long ago, and confirm he is actually pretty quick. So much so that he was saying that in a Clio he was definitely faster than me, and I was like, nope, absolutely not. And then he put faster than me, so you know, each their own. So yeah, George, sorry mate, it's you.
Well, just because they drive Clios, they're both grannies in my view, so that's where I'm going.
No, you can't have that.
Oh, well played. That is brilliant.
Get out of here.
Give me that chin strap.
All right, well, you know what? Since you guys can't agree on a set answer, I'm going to throw it over to everybody in the chat as well. Let us know, out of my three fabulous colleagues, which of them do you think would be most likely to drive like a granny? If we could get a poll going for that, by the way, that would be absolutely incredible. But George, I'm going to come over to you once again. What are we thinking predictions-wise? Who do you think is going to finish in that pole position?
Whoosh. It's going to be a close one. I think we're going to be seeing definitely a new face at the top. I appreciate Josh Rogers got himself through to the final, but I don't think a Porsche is the way forward at the Nürburgring, despite a wonderful effort in the last round. I mean, you know, to keep Maximilian Benecke back in an Audi, I think is a testament to the quality of Joshua Rogers, I think, at this point, but I don't think he's going to do it again. My instant thought, to be honest with you, is on Nils Niox. I think if he can follow up a blistering performance in our first semi-final, not to mention what he did in the quarterfinal as well, I just think he is the trendsetter right now.
All right, okay. Are we disagreeing with that? Are we agreeing with it?
I kind of agree. I mean, the thing is, realistically, is this is going to come down to qualifying. The winner of this is going to come from the front two rows. That's where I'm going to be. So as long as you can get yourself in there, fair enough. The Audi, part of me is like, is the Audi fast enough in qualifying? In the hands of Yuri Toman, I'm not that sure. But Kevin Ellis Jr. did prove earlier on that it is fast enough to qualify up in that position. If Yuri Toman kill a lap like what Kevin Ellis Jr. did, I'd be terrified because he is mighty quick later on in the race. I just, if he can nail it, I'm more leaning towards Bennett. I think he's got the pace and he's got like that sort of like that young blood, that young aggression to really absolutely go for it. And I kind of lean more that way.
How about you, Luke?
Yeah, I agree with Lewis. I think you absolutely nailed the point I was going to put out there. I think Baptista's got the raw pace. I think he might lack a little bit of consistency. I think Niels might be a little bit too kind on circuit. And Bennett, well, he has got nothing to lose, right? He'll be happy that he's in the final. He's got the whole red line on his back at this point, and he'll want to prove a point. And he's already shown that he's willing to send it up the inside. I think Baptista's got that in him as well, but I just think Niels will be a little bit too calculated. It's a 15-minute race. Niels is one of the best endurance racers out there. Obviously, we know his raw pace in terms of qualifying is exceptional. But I just think Bennett just has that spark that it might do him well in this final.
Well, without further ado, our final race of today. I'm super excited to get things started. So George and Lewis, boys, the final one. Take us away.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. Yes, we are here. We've arrived, folks. It is the final here at the Nürburgring, round 3 in this championship. We're getting higher and higher up the ladder, but the more it goes on, the tension still lies. I tell you what, I'm looking forward to this one. Where's it going to go, Lewis? You're firm at the moment here on where you sit in terms of Bennett heading in through to this one. I'm going to stick with Nils Niox, but we have seen how much, how much things change when it comes to a final round. I mean, obviously, we've got proven contenders like Joshua Rogers, who is still in contest. He could spring a surprise in the Porsche, but it's pretty much draw from a hat, really, isn't it? Anyone can win this one.
I mean, firm is a strong word, or just a strong word. I don't know if I'd go with I'm firmly on it. Yes, Bennett is mighty fast. I'm just like leaning red line's way ever so slightly. I mean, like you say, Niox was so impressive earlier on. Kevin Ellis Jr.'s got the pace as well. Yeoman's got the pace. I'm not sure Baptista's got the mentality. I don't really know how to put it. Like he is clearly fast enough, but we've not seen enough from Baptista. And that's just in sim racing generally. I've not seen enough from Baptista to know whether it's going to be him or not, right? So that's kind of one that we're going to leave for a little bit. Maybe today is the day he's going to prove himself. Who knows? And like I say, you can never count out Rogers. Whether that Porsche is struggling or not, I did get grilled a little bit for saying that maybe they're not just getting the most out of it. Who knows? I feel, yeah. But I think there might have been some issues in qualifying. I think Rogers does have more pace than he showed in semi-final 2. So who knows?
Yeah, absolutely right indeed. I mean, obviously, there's plenty of other names here on the table. I mean, we spoke about Darren McCormack earlier on as well, and his incredible performance so far in this round 3. I mean, obviously, coming off the back of really was a tricky, I think, couple of rounds. I think for Williams Esports, it certainly wasn't outstanding, shall we say? But coming into this one, getting 3 cars then into the semis off the back of a very hectic quarterfinal series of rounds. We're now here in the final. He's in it alongside the likes of Wisniewski as well. Would you say Williams' strongest performance to date so far?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, again, the Mercedes, it struggled a little bit in Katowice when we went racing at Spa and Hockenheim. It seems to be struggling to a similar degree now, maybe slightly less so. McCormack is getting quite a lot out of it. Now, do remember, he did do quite well at Hockenheim, got into the final, and then had some very early issues, and then dropped back down to 12th and finished in 12th in that fight. Obviously, still scored some decent points, but still, that would be frustrating for the Williams Esports team. They are looking strong this round, even despite their struggles. It's kind of one of those things that in sim racing, when your back's up against the wall, when you do have those struggles, sometimes you can just find that little bit extra, especially when it comes down to consistency. That's only what it seems like they've found something that way at least.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, it's pretty much answer on a postcard, folks. We want to hear from you as well. Let us know in the live chat where you think it's going. Bear in mind, if you want to check out the socials, folks, and have your say, you can, of course, check out ESL R1 as well on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you want it. Certainly on YouTube as well, at ESL_R1. And use the hashtag as well, ESLR1 as well. There we can see the cars now out on track. There's Yuri Toman, a superstar sensation this season, has been ever so quick. I mean, RAG continuing their blistering run from the first 2 rounds. Obviously, they would have preferred to have Marcel Cinczyk with them as well, but the fact that you've got Toman in your field, and not to mention Jajowski, it's still a pretty strong hand to play with.
Yeah, it's not it's not something we classify as weak. That's the that is the main thing to be accounted on. I'm just going to take a look at what they were doing in practice beforehand. The order that they'll go out is based off of that. So we'll see Yuri Toman, then Kevin Ellis Jr., then Niels Nyox, and then Josh Rogers up there. Yuri 53.104, and I can confirm that first sector's pretty tasty from the Czech driver, 36.247 as he'll cross the line in that first sector. Just really needs to nail this lap. If he can get on the front couple of rows, generally Toman has a very, very solid chance to progress it. And by progress, I mean win.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, obviously getting it to the front end is half the battle. We've seen it, of course, in a succession of races that we have had here. Obviously qualifying mightily important in a sprint format, which is very much what the ESL R1 Championship certainly is. Yuri Toman, obviously getting off the back of a great run so far this championship, is going to look to continue that here and potentially get his first final win as well. There will be one man here, though, in this contingent that'll be looking to take his second final win in a row and become the first driver to go back-to-back in terms of final wins this season. Out of the final chicane now, round the Coca-Cola curve now for Yuri Toman to get things kicked off here at the Nürburgring. Down the long straight, he will take it down towards the checkered flag line and heads towards it now. What time is he going to enlist? Now that's fast, very fast, a 53.140. That's not a bad place to start there, Lewis McGlade.
Yeah, that is a tasty. Kevin Ellis Jr., though, did get into the 53 zeros in the semi-finals. What can he do across the line? Is it going to be a 53-0? No, oh my goodness, look at that. 53.139, a single thousandth of a second. Kevin Ellis Jr. goes ahead of Yuri Toman.
He certainly does. Kevin Ellis Jr. getting himself to the top end as well. Niels Nyox, I tell you what, I knew I tipped him for a reason. Niels Nyox returns with a blistering lap of 53.028. We did hear of a 52, though, that we discussed earlier on. Could we see one of those here in this final qualifying session? Joshua Rogers up towards the line, the man, the hero from round 2, up towards the line. Where does he sit? 53.3. He'll be a little bit disappointed with that as Mac Backham comes up towards the line as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that middle sector for Mac Backham. He'll go faster than Josh Rogers, but again, the Porsche Commander guys seeming to struggle a little bit. Haniovsky, decent first sector, not so great middle sector. Could get around Yuri Toman's time. I think it's more going to be ahead of Mac Backham. Certainly is a 2.49 as he crosses the line, but behind Toman. Let's see what Baptista can do. That is a mega. Oh, he's cut! No! Oh my goodness, that is a mega sector, but it doesn't matter. He's cut at the final chicane. He's got to slow down, and Baptista will be starting from somewhere toward the back.
I'm sure you guys saw the gestures as well in the bottom left-hand corner. He was not happy with that one at all, and Baptista is going to have to swallow that one. Dara McCormack as well for Williams, the Irishman, who's going to look to cross the line. There he is in the bottom left, a raise of the arm as well as he now comes across the line. Disappointment there, a 56.4 head-in-hands moment as well as Joni Tormela comes up towards the line.
He's furious. He had a slowdown. Did Dara McCormack again. Second sector was so good, and he's furious with himself, as we'll see. So, more times coming in. Joni Tormela going to 6th position. Luke Bennett, though, this could be a big one. Great second, George.
Yeah, he is, certainly is. Luke Bennett now up towards the line. Can he pull a worldie for you as well as he now makes his up towards the line? Yes, he can. He goes to the top of 53.022. Mere 6 thousandths of a second between him and Niels Nyox as Eamon Murphy also heads up towards the line for G2 Esports as well. Where can he go? Fifth fastest of 53.240, or 245, sorry. Well, certainly, but now we have Nikodem Wisniewski, the final car for Williams here, Lewis.
Yeah, Nikodem Wisniewski out of the final corner. Can he do anything again? It's a great second sector. He'll move his way up the order. It's a 2.17, so it's good enough for 5th. Again, the Mercs seem to go quite well in that second sector. But again, the frustration for them is with Dara McCormack, Baptista as well. Robbed of a couple of good lap times in there. Porsche Commander starting just from 8th. But wow for Luke Bennett starting from 1st. He'll be alongside the wily old man. I'm pretty sure that is the youngest driver on the grid starting 1st and 2nd.
Well, isn't that incredible? I mean, we've got the 2 picks there at the top end. Absolutely astounding. So they're going to fight it out in a race environment, folks. I'm feeling good about this one as we now await the lights certainly to go red and out again. Obviously, if you're enjoying this, folks, please make sure you let us know, obviously in the live chat, as I said before. But I tell you what a qualifying session. Could not get much better than that. 6,000s between the top two there, Lewis. Just goes to show the slightest margin makes all the difference. And it just goes to show as well, those slowdowns can really punish you. No greater example than Dara McCormack there.
Yeah, to explain what we're talking about when it comes to slowdowns as well, because you might be thinking, surely the lap time's invalidated. The way we're running this competition and the way this flying session is working is no lap time is invalidated. All you'll do, if you exceed track limits, you will get a slowdown penalty. It will slow your car down to 60 kilometers an hour, which, trust me, it ain't quick. And so your lap time, whilst it's not invalidated, you aren't going to be fighting for pole position. You aren't going to be fighting for a decent position. You'll be for those that have also had slowdowns. It means that you still have something to kind of fight for if you've exceeded track limits early on in the lap. You don't hate the system. I quite like it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great system. We have got the starting grid as well, folks, so let's take you through it for this final here at the Nürburgring. And we'll soon be seeing them head down towards turn one. But here they are. Luke Bennett starts on pole alongside Nils Nyox. Like I said before, it's in fact 7,000s between them. Kevin Ellis Jr. in behind. Yuri Toman alongside him. That's third and fourth. Wisniewski there in behind him. Eamon Murphy alongside him as well in P6. Erhan Yujovski is next, then followed with Mac Backham. Then Joni Tormela, Joshua Rogers alongside him. At the back of the grid, we have Baptista and Dara McCormack as well. So a very spicy grid contingent as we go, well, look to go racing at the Nürburgring. Who is going to take the advantage heading through towards turn one? You can have your say in the live chat, as I said. Let us know who you think is going to take the final victory here at the Nürburgring for round 3. And we'll look forward to seeing who does take their opportunity. Anything can happen, certainly here. Very testing circuit. They call it Green Hell. Is it going to be hell when they head out for the final race here now, Lewis?
I don't know. I'd actually feel uncomfortable if I was in Bennett's boots. I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he doesn't really care. He's here to win, and so he'll be doing what he does best, coming down into the first corner. It comes down to having someone as so experienced as Nils Nyox. If you make even the slightest, getting a slightly bogged down start, having an issue in that, missing your brake marker by the tiniest margin. Nils Nyox is the kind of driver that will absolutely pounce to get by Luke Crane. I was like, is Nils the oldest? He said, yeah, by 30 years. So, he's the road on that one. The Silver Fox will be starting from the outside of the front row there, and we'll see if he can jump. I think second place has had a good ratio around here of Tade into that first corner.
Yeah, I think as long as you can get the inside, it obviously gives you a fighting chance. But equally, if you have the outside line, you do have the inside heading through Mercedes Arena. So it's very much a lottery. But it certainly does seem to be that if you're in P2, you do have a great chance. Certainly take nothing away from both drivers. They've both been fast. And here they line up onto the grid now. There's second light, third light, and the fourth light. And it's pedal to the metal for the final time here in round 3. And Luke Bennett getting off the line well. Nils Nyox a little slow getting away there. Kevin Ellis Jr. down the inside now as Wisniewski joins him. Side by side now between the pair as Eamon Murphy hangs her around the outside of turn 1. Heading through Mercedes Arena curve wide from Kevin Ellis Jr. there slightly as he turns in. But no, Wisniewski moves up into third. Kevin Ellis Jr. down to fourth. Eamon Murphy down in fifth as well. The two RAGs together. Yujovski and Toman. But Bennett leads here.
I think Rogers got sent off as well in the background down to 12th. Remember how I said that if Yuri Toman started on a couple of rows, he might win this? Well, he had probably one of the worst starts that we've seen up there with the start that we saw from Yujovski back in the Hockenheimring. And Toman dropping down to position on the race start, but it's side by side behind all of that between Dara McCormack and Joni Tormela as McCormack's trying to pick up a position. He's got the inside line coming down into Lob, and that is a driver who is not wasting any time. McCormack, the flying Irishman, moving up a spot until being pushed out wide, and it should be Rogers through.
Yeah, dynamic start there for Dara McCormack. Difficulty for Joni Tormela. Baptista sneaks up now into 11th place. Joshua Rogers was slowed down. He's receiving a drive-through for a false start here at the start of this race as well. Got off the line a little bit too quick before the lights went out, and therefore will have to come in and serve a drive-through penalty. But Luke Bennett now leads the way in what could be his very first final win, but still, Nils Nyox in behind. You'd be I tell you what, you'd be foolish to count anybody out at this stage. They skip over the curbs heading through the final chicane now. In the bottom there of your screen, you can see there Nikodem Wisniewski currently sat in 3rd place. Williams having a cracking start, to say the least, fighting off the likes of Kevin Ellis Jr. and seeing Dara McCormack literally pepper his way through the field now. He is only, well, he's within 0.5 of a second, nearly 4 of Mac Backham there in behind, and is looking to yet again attain more places.
Yeah, you can see the Williams Esports car in the background with the green wing mirrors. He might be pouncing on Backham soon. He's not gone for it now as we look at Wisniewski in that third. It's trying to run away at the moment, but could he be using his tyres a little too early in this? One thing is a guarantee, though, in this race, and I would say a guarantee, because as much as there is the mathematical possibility of Rogers still winning the race, let's be honest, it is damn unlikely at this level. We are going to see a new winner here in ESL R1. Of course, Josh Rogers. We've had Maximilian Benneker in the first race, or the first round, that first final that we had at Spa. With Rogers being in 12th and then being no Maximilian Benneker in this, we are going to see our 3rd consecutive new winner in the championship, which I am all for. I love seeing new people at the front.
Yeah, well, we know how competitive this series really is. They round now the hairpin bend. There you see the 2 RHE cars of Erhan Yujovski and Yuri Toman. No fears of elimination this time. It's all about the points here in this final round. Luke Bennett currently leads the way and could be on to lay claim to his first final win. There you see him in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen there. Very physical on the wheel at a very, very technical circuit such as the Nürburgring. It certainly does look fantastic here on Rennsport, as now he moves his way up through towards the next straight. He has then got a series of lefts and rights to take at Kumo Curve, in towards Bit Curve as well at turn 12, and then after turn 13 he has got that final chicane as well. Just look at them all together as they come through that final chicane now. There's Wisniewski, currently sits in 3rd place, getting closer and closer to behind Niox as well, and really extracting the most he can. And oh dearie me, Dara McCormack, a 5-second slowdown penalty due to forcing another driver off the track. Now that's going to prove to make things difficult for Dara McCormack. Luck certainly not going his way, Lewis.
Yeah, so there are slowdown zones, so it's not like it was back in Katowice, so there'll be certain players will receive a slowdown penalty from race control so that you don't kind of get them in a fortuitous location where you don't lose so much time. I believed that it was coming out of Valvoline, or Ford rather, going out towards the Dunlop hairpin. I believed it was there. I'm not 100% sure though. As you can see, Yujovski into Toman, once again very close. Eamon Murphy ahead of those. I'm just going to say one thing now. With 2 laps of this race, this is going to sound crazy, I am slightly concerned about Bennett. Right? And you're slightly concerned. He's 1.1 seconds clear. I think he might be using his tyres too early.
Well, I mean, we have seen that obviously they do go off, and obviously, while it's only 8 laps of racing, folks, obviously if you do apply those tyres too early, you do have to wonder whether Niox just backing off, just being patient. I mean, it does seem to me that Wisniewski, going off your point there, Lewis, does seem that Wisniewski managed to catch up and certainly get close to the rear of Niox quite heavily. Do you think that it's a tactical ploy from Niox and perhaps a little bit of brashness from Bennett at this point?
No, I mean, the thing is, with age comes wisdom, with wisdom comes confidence, and Niox will be confident that he can keep Wisniewski behind and not lose too much time whilst looking after the time, knowing how to play the longer game. That's the thing that Niox is so good for. Like, as much as you're seeing Bennett pull away, this is not me saying that Bennett is not going to win this race because his tyres are going to explode, fly off, courtesy basically like Silverstone back in 2013, with Pop City when it comes to tyres. That's not going to happen to Bennett. My point being is that before the end of the race, at this point, I would be surprised if Niox did not close back in and at least fight with Bennett before the end of this race. It depends on what Wisniewski does. Ellis Jr. as well, keeping in tow. Yujovski's going inside though of Eamon Murphy into the first corner. That's a proper send from the Macedonian. Doors open from Murphy, but a hit check as well. As we head to the Mercedes Arena section, it is going to be Yujovski up to 5th.
Yeah, and Toman also sneaking up the inside as well out of Mercedes Arena in towards turn 3, trying to follow Yujovski through past Eamon Murphy. There's Toman in the bottom left of your screen, trying to fight his way through past the BMW, a bit physical. They lick up some of the turf on the left-hand side, but no way through for Yuri Toman. There's a Toman in the hole, says Eamon Murphy. You cannot come through for the back. Also trying to find his way through still as well. The Porsche primed and ready in behind to literally take any opportunity that may come his way. But Toman still trying to find his way past. Has a look down the inside into the hairpin as well. Contact together between them. They lick the paint off the cars. Toman managing to come out on top. He's up to P6 now. Yayovsky also getting closer to Kevin Ellis Jr. The Audis are firing here, Lewis McGlade.
Absolutely sensational from Yuri Toman, and you could tell it was amazing because he didn't react at all. How do these drivers not? They didn't care. He was like, yeah, and what? Yeah, cool, that's me. Don't worry about it. Yuri Toman, super stuff. 1.1 seconds now behind Erhan Yayovsky, and he should be able to close that one back in. No good Yuri Toman is in his tyres, but did he take too much out whilst trying to make those moves? Either way, he's moved up into 6th position, gaining an extra few points. Mac Backer now on the attack as he gets down the inside of what's steam-ailing Eamon Murphy in that G2 Esports car. Felipe Baptista behind, obviously running inside the top 10. The other G2 Esports car, Yodi Tormula, in 10th position. And then McCormack and Rogers at the Rogers in for a very boring race here, unfortunately, in the final. But of course, it is still our race leader, Bennett. Niox has got it back under a second in the second half of this race.
Yeah, and we've got approximately 3 laps left there. We can see as well further back, Mac Backham, who has got Baptista hot on his tail. We spoke about his pace. Oh, mistake from Backham. Lost the rear end slightly, and as a result made contact with the Furia car of Baptista, who switches back straight away through Sector 1. Whoa. As they peel down through Turn 3. Nose to tail, the BMW spears its way through and now moves up into 8th place. Furia on the rise, but it might be a little too late to hold any demand over this field here at this point.
I mean, I think race control might have something to say. That might have been a little bit. I mean, for me, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I could see it going either way with race control, being like that was 2 over the line or whatever. It seems Murphy's had something go over the line though, because coming out of Valvoline, he's had a slow down penalty. Coming out of Ford, rather, he's had a slow down penalty. Now, I'm going to say that would have come from race control. That what I believe is the slowdown zone around the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, and potentially Darren McCormack might get past Yuri Tormula as they head up to the Schumacher-Reds. That was a little bit naughty from Tormula to have squeezed the nose there of Darren McCormack, but you know, that wasn't really an overlap, so you know, all's fair in love and war.
Yeah, G2 currently sat in a place where they don't want to be, 9th and 10th. Obviously, Murphy was significantly higher up as well. Darren McCormack has also faced those difficulties. And we have got a slowdown recede for Eamon Murphy due to forcing another driver off the track. So he has been penalised over that particular venture. So that's the call, that's the decision that has been made by our race director. There we see the cars now venturing through the final corner now. Still Bennett on top, 0.8 of a second clear of Nils Niox. It is coming down, Lewis, and there's still time left.
Yeah, also Wisniewski seems to have had, like, again, the opposite thing. Seems to have pushed his tyres a little bit too hard in the earlier stages, so he's dropping the clutches. Less so of Kevin Ellis Jr., more so of the R8G driver of Erhan Yayovsky, who is closing in now 3/10 behind Kevin Ellis Jr. And the Macedonian is pretty quick around the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. I've seen plenty of stuff out of Yayovsky around here. He's been an incredible driver when it comes to this circuit, also racing, well, basically anything. Whether it's in GT cars, he's won champs around here in these little BMW M2 CS race cars that are like basically just like little almost touring car, road car kind of thing. It's nothing crazy when it comes to race car. Again, race those around here, still one of them. So the fact that he's moving forward in this style of racing does not shock me. With Yayovsky, there is Eamon Murphy now just ahead of his teammate Yuri Tormula. And again, a lap ago where he had to receive that 5-second slowdown that cost him a couple of positions to Baptista and Backham as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. Just goes to show the positions can be won and lost in a matter of moments. We've seen it already this race on quite a number of occasions. Nils Niox now just still patiently drawing closer and closer to the rear end of Luke Bennett. 2 BMWs, no doubt, looking to come and spar together. Wisniewski in behind as well, having a sterling race in 3rd place, driving that Mercedes AMG GT3. We've spoken about how performance isn't necessarily on the side of Mercedes here at this particular track, certainly based on what we've seen ever since the start of the quarterfinals, as now the cars peel their way through. Lap 6 of 8. Still enough time for a fight. Nyox still in second. There's Toman, who's now making his way through the chicane as well, chasing after teammate Erhan Yuyovski. He's 1.5 seconds behind now. Kevin Ellis Jr. still holds on to fourth, but in a very impressive outing for ART that are currently sat in fourth, driving the Audi. Erhan Yuyovski, though, peppering his rear. There you see Yuyovski now, live screens. There is Kevin Ellis Jr., bottom left of your screen as well. I'm sure is very wary of that fellow Audi coming closer and closer behind him. Look at Nyox, though. It's coming down by the moment here, Lewis.
Yeah, like I say, it's kind of one of those things where it's like it'll come down more and more, and that's not just like it comes to the same rate constantly. The more laps go on, the more that the tyres will be overheating a little bit more for Bennett, the more he'll start to struggle. The larger the percentage gain from Nyox. The problem is around here, it is quite a difficult track to overtake on. Not sure the pace differential is there. If anyone can find the move, it will be Niels Nyox. But I'm still, at the moment, I would still be leaning towards Bennett. I think just got the speed, and more importantly, the consistency does not make any sort of mistakes, really.
Yeah, we got an update. Yuri Toman has got to give a position, apparently, so he's got to give up to Felipe Baptista. So effectively, he's got to wait for the right opportunity to give the position. In fact, we've also got Eamon Murphy receiving a 5-second slowdown as well. That was, I think that might be in relation to an earlier incident that we saw before. And there is Yuri Toman, give up one position due to the penalty. That might, oh, there it is. That's the move. Baptista now up into 6th place. So Toman forced to give the position, but I'm sure he'll fight to get it back.
Yeah, but hilariously, still, Baptista might have some repercussions for an earlier instance. So if Baptista wants to give up one position, Mac Backham's going to be sat behind that, be like, "Hey, that was on me." You'll just see the two ahead switching positions, and he's gained nothing from it. Maybe a 5-second time. It might be anything. It might not be a penalty at all. I do not want to speak on behalf of race control. They can see far more than we can. And also, not that it's difficult, but they are smarter than we are. As we'll head on to our final lap of the race here at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, lap 8 of 8, and here we go. Nyox trying to get closer to Luke Bennett, of course, for the overall lead of this race to decide who takes the final win here in round 3. Yuri Toman again looking very spicy on the rear of Felipe Baptista, who is currently still holding on at this moment. Mac Backham also in behind, ready to pounce on any opportunity that may come his way, but still left wanting at this stage. Of course, this is a battle for P6. Of course, as I said before, no benefits off the back of finishing in the top 6 as such, apart from the point situation that, of course, goes into the teams and drivers' championships as now they make their way through towards the next left. Nyox still working at that delta, but Bennett doing a sterling job to maintain it above half a second, although Nyox starting to get it lower than that, as we're now seeing it. Kevin Ellis Jr. also pulling a worldie to try and keep Yuyovski at bay. There's battles all across this circuit here, Lewis.
I'm going to be a little bit boring here. Not that Nyox is going to do anything. He might be close enough to send something into the NGK chicane, but knowing how treacherous it is into NGK, into that penultimate corner, basically into that final chicane, can be a little bit dangerous. It can be a little bit too risky, and he's still got to play the points game. He was sat all the way back in 24th position, I believe, in the points coming into this round. Certainly was, with just 6 to be an amazing points haul for second on the road. That is a fantastic camera angle, whoever that belongs to. But like I say, I just don't think there's going to be anything too close, and I don't see him making it. Luke Bennett should have this.
Yeah, I think he should. He's looking very calm and composed right now, heading through the final chicane. Indeed, Luke Bennett, I got to say, Team Redline, who have not had the best of times, they haven't had the worst of times either, but Luke Bennett is going to give them elation, and he's going to become our 3rd winner here in the ESL R1 series. He's going to win the final here in round 3. Luke Bennett is your winner at the Nürburgring. Nils Nyox with a superb performance for the BS Competition BMW team, and Nikodem Wisniewski with a mega 3rd spot as well for Williams Esports. What a drive, but Luke Bennett is our 3rd finalist winner. What an effort from him.
Not only that, obviously 3rd different team, 3rd different manufacturer as well. We've had Audi, we've had Porsche, and now we've got W as well. Incredible stuff, and it's that blistering consistency, and it all came down to qualifying and that sensational race start from Luke Bennett. It was just taking.
Yeah, it was. He got away so well. You could argue as well that perhaps Nils Nyox wasn't quite as quick as he should have been off the line as well. I think he might kick himself slightly for that. But then he was managing his tyres through the race, did get closer towards the end. You could argue if there was another lap or so, Lewis, he might have had a chance.
Again, to go back to Crane was saying earlier on, if these were the 20-minute races that we were dealing with back in Katowice, drivers like Yuri Toman, drivers like Nils Nyox might be a little bit even stronger with that extra sort of what would be 2-3 laps around here. That extra little bit that would just bring them in later on. Maybe that would have been the case. Who knows?
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. We are waiting to hear from Luke Bennett shortly, folks. We'll bring him to you very shortly. But in terms of the best performances and the worst, well, in fact, we can cut away now. Let's go to Luke Bennett, who's standing by with Jasmine and Luke Crane.
Thank you very much, guys. Luke Bennett, first and foremost, congratulations again. I'm almost getting a bit of deja vu here. But the first place finals finish for the side of yourself and Team Redline. What does this win mean for you all?
Quite a few lows in the first 3 rounds, but I mean, I'm speechless. Like, I didn't think I would win something like this, and I have, so it's kind of unreal.
Well, they say Poland sucked, mate, but tough time never lasts. You managed to get the dub here. Exactly that, mate. Exactly that. Of course, Le Mans Virtual, probably your biggest, accomplishment in sim racing as a team driver. This is all your own, buddy. You must feel unbelievable. Our 3rd winner in the ESL R1, and you absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like I said, like Le Mans was a real high for me, but that is a team event. But coming into this as a solo driver and to win it is. It's just ridiculous. I can't wait to smile on my face.
Well, I kind of want you to give us a little bit of insight, as you did mention solo driver, so much pressure on your shoulders. Give us some insight as to what it's like with the team while you were kind of driving and racing there. Were they all in the call with you? Is everybody sat there incredibly silently, just letting you do your thing? Are people hyping you up? What goes on behind the scenes?
For almost 8 laps in that voice call, but I think the other drivers aren't too happy, and they're not in the voice call with me. But I have the engineer in my ear, and he's letting me know what's going on. But for most of the part, it's absolutely silent, letting me concentrate. And I think I would have gone mental if someone had made a noise. So big thanks to the team behind everything that's happened.
Obviously, it's an amazing accomplishment, but it's only round number 3. How do you move on in this championship? What's the next steps?
Win round 4. No, well, I mean, just obviously I still need a big points haul, as I wasn't too far up there in the championship. But yeah, just consistently getting points, getting us up there in the teams championship, and hopefully getting somewhere in the drivers championship as well to fight for the overall win in Munich.
Amazing stuff. Well, congratulations again. I'm not going to keep you for too much longer. I'm going to let you go celebrate with the rest of your team. So thank you so much for joining us. But Luke Crane, I think it's about time we dive into some highlights. How about that?
Certainly is, and I find it funny that you have to say my second name now because Bennett's gone out there and won. But here is the start of our final race, and well, you can see the G2 esports car there making the biggest inroads, but it was Luke Bennett who got an absolute flyer off the line. He didn't necessarily start well in the quarterfinals, but in the semifinals and in the final, he's just absolutely smashed it. You see Kevin Ellis Jr. then making his way around the outside of the Williams esport car as well, and huge news for Kevin Ellis Jr. He had a great performance here today, and Josh Rogers did not. So Josh Rogers finished in P12 overall. You can see there's so much argy-bargy. You've got Yuri Toman there as well, battling out for position. You've got Erhan Yayovsky, the 2 R8G cars side by side. And then you've got G2 versus Williams. Really impressive Wisniewski today. Kind of, again, flown under the radar, but getting the performance that I guess he knows he's capable of doing. Dara McCormack as well, performing well for Williams Esport. Williams Esport having a pretty good day. And then you see the little bit of argy-bargy through the Schumacher S's, which indeed lost Josh Rogers the 10th position. He lost 2 spots and dropped down into 12th. As we see the R8G there, it's almost a double team on the G2 Esports car as we come through turn number 2. But the G2 Esports car held firm for the time being, but then it came down to this, down towards turn number 1. The door opened up, the opportunity door opened up, and you don't need to give Yayovsky 2 opportunities there. He indeed made that move stick, beautifully well done. And then you see Mac Backham a little bit further back. Coanda having 2 cars in the final, they'll feel like they should have done a little bit more, but as you can see here, R8G were just not happy with the positions they were in. That's a bit over the line for me, a little bit aggressive, but in a 15-minute race, if you're not taking chances, you know, when do you take them? It really is as simple as that. You've got to sometimes, you know, put your car where it's not supposed to be to really get the maximum in terms of your points. But the day belongs to Luke Bennett. Again, 17 years old, well ahead of his time, that's for sure. Niels Naujoks, again, an exceptional performance from him to be in P2. But yeah, it's Team Redline's day. The team didn't do well this weekend, but one driver really was the star of the show. Congratulations to Luke Bennett.
I need to ask you, does it get any easier, like, when you see the cars that close to one another? Because every time I watch it, I can't help but express it on my face. I'm like, oh, no, you're going to crash into one another. Does it get any easier? Or am I just going to be constantly on this roller coaster?
Imagine driving around London, right? That's where you're from. So you're in your car and you've got someone that's tailgating you. They're really close behind you. And you start driving with your mirrors. Like, you start panicking, right? Because they're too close behind you. You think, oh, God, they're going to hit me. Imagine doing that at, 160 miles an hour, 170 miles an hour. Like, it's scary. Scary, when you're that close to other drivers. And the skill set is really ignoring that rear view mirror. You've got to try and just look forward, be looking at the apexes, making sure you hit your braking points. And, that's what pressure can indeed bring out. That's where mistakes happen from drivers, but the best ones don't make those mistakes. They don't succumb to the pressure. Niels was flawless. Luke Bennett was just a little bit better.
Well, I do believe we have an interview ready and waiting with our race director. Could you give us a little bit of insight about some penalties that are going to be handed out?
Yeah, right now we are just investigating some post-race penalties. So at the moment I cannot tell who it is, but definitely it will not change the top 3 positions. but the cars after will might have a small impact.
Yeah, it's I guess it's the nature of the beast, though, right? Isn't it? Obviously, you're expecting to be busy. I see Dennis there as well. I can't believe he's still in the race director seat. That blows my mind every time. Yeah, one of the most aggressive drivers I've ever raced against, that's for sure. But I guess you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. But yeah, like I said, the format here is the nature of the beast. People are going to take chances, and people watching at home, me watching from my home as well, I want to see drivers taking chances. But has it been over the line for you this weekend, or would you say that it's been within your guidelines?
No, to be honest, I think certainly lap 1 is always very aggressive. All the drivers are trying to take the best positions they can because that's where all the cars are squeezed together. But overall, I think there has been some nice racing as well. But I think we found the right line of penalties now, and now it's all about aligning with the drivers and see how they're reacting on it. But definitely some good racing, but also some hard racing, and that's what's space for. Hard but fair.
Would you say that we're kind of seeing more penalties potentially being handed out now that they are kind of competing online? Would you say that has an element to factor into this?
Yeah, I think it has a minor element that the drivers are not, walking among each other like for the first 2 rounds in Katowice. That it is easier to do something without any consequence, without any physical appearance of the other drivers feeling, the mental game that is. It's easier to sit at home and just send it fully and then hope for the best. And yeah, we have seen that on some of the last lap wonders here that drivers are trying to send it just in hope that it's not monitored or anything.
Let's start some beef here, right? You guys have watched every single race. Which team's been the most aggressive? I want to hear it. Honest answers, come on.
Oh, where should I start? That's so hard. I think it's not Dennis at the moment, but which team? I'm not about to hang anyone out. I think it is. It's always where's the edge of doing hard racing and where's the edge of being too aggressive, and that's the line we are trying to find here.
Well, guys, I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I know you have plenty of work to get back to, so I'm going to go ahead and leave you to it. Luke, what a day we have had thus far. Obviously, there's penalties being handed out left, right, and centre by the looks of things. So for the folks at home, if you want the final standings, make sure you're following at ESL_R1 on Twitter, and make sure you're sharing your thoughts, your feelings, any surprises along the way as well, and make sure you're remembering to use hashtag ESLR1 as well. But Luke, while I have you here, there's no need for you to use the hashtag until after the broadcast, of course. Have there been any surprises throughout the day for you that you weren't necessarily expecting after watching the quarterfinals?
I'm going to be honest, not really. I expected to see Niels Naujoks and Bennett up there. Baptista, I figured there was a chink in his armour in terms of consistency, and that was shown in the final race. But there's so many positives that Furia can take with all of their drivers. They are now announced, or they have announced themselves within this championship. I will say one thing: there have been some issues with the broadcast here today, as we're all trying our very best to put on the best show possible. But there's lots of new parts for this. This is such a new concept in terms of esports and sim racing coming together, and there are so many people working behind the scenes to get this right, and we want to take your feedback. So everyone who's been positive in the chat, thank you very much. It is really genuinely appreciated. We are all trying to do the absolute best job we possibly can, and we want to make this an amazing broadcast, an amazing event, and we can't do it without you. So make sure you do indeed go to Twitter and leave feedback, leave some constructive feedback. Of course, you can go out there and you can say some nasty and horrible things all you like. That's, that just shows more about you than anything. But if there's something constructive you can indeed help us, go out there and do it. Genuinely send a message.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That was so beautifully said. But when Luke is saying if you want to send negative feedback, what he really means is just slate him for being the granny driver. I'm sure George and Lewis will definitely appreciate that one as well. But Luke, heading into round 4, how are you feeling about the next races we're going to have coming up?
Look, we've had 3 rounds now. We've had 3 different winners. Are we going to continue that trend? I would imagine so. I think the standard of driving is just that exceptional. There are too many drivers at the top end to really have someone just go out there winning race after race after race. You tend to find that, especially in sim racing. So I think that trend is going to continue. The BOP changed between rounds 1 and 2 and round 3. I'm expecting that to be the case once again. I think it's a work in progress. There's going to be each and every team will be sending out a message if their car hasn't qualified pole. I can assure you right now that is just how it works. Not whether it be sim racing or real world motorsport. So that fact is going to change. So to predict anything becomes really, really difficult. I just hope we continue to have different results each and every week.
I hope we can keep up your flawless prediction run as well. I kind of want like a counter for every broadcast so far. So I think that'd be pretty cool. You down for that?
I'm expecting at least 1,000 tweets sent my way. Give me my flowers when I deserve it. Not very often I'm right, but when I'm wrong, you bloody point it out to me each and every time. So I'm expecting thousands of tweets here. 3 out of 3. Unbelievable guesswork.
Not guesswork. You are the expert, the quote-unquote expert. No, but honestly, Luke, it's been an absolute pleasure to be joined alongside you on broadcast today. A huge shout out to everybody that has been super welcoming, super nice. The community is absolutely fabulous. And another reminder for everyone, remember to follow at ESL_R1 over on Twitter and use the hashtag ESLR1 for any feedback, any sort of suggestions you might have for the broadcast. We are all ears over here. I just want to give another shout out to George and Lewis as well, who absolutely crushed it on the commentating front as well. And of course, our wonderful production team that have been working tirelessly behind the scenes to make this broadcast what it is. And it is only up from here. Honestly, we're continuing to improve week after week. And I'm so excited to be along for the journey. And on that note, thank you and good night.